In a vast, cold hall, two figures stand dwarfed by a massive statue. It's Veronica and the renegade holy knight, Leon. She gazes up at him, confessing her deepest secret. She wishes he would love her. Her mind flashes to a beautiful, dreamlike vision of what she has always craved, a gentle hand caressing her face, warm arms holding her securely through the long nights, and above all else, someone to truly cherish her. Leon's expression remains steady as he listens. Then he leans in, his voice barely a whisper. He confesses that he feels the same way. He wants her to love him too, with a devotion so all-consuming that she might lose herself completely. The warm vision shatters, leaving them in the stark reality of the hall. Looking into his eyes, Veronica asks a desperate question. Could he be the one to make that dream come true? The story flashes back 15 days to the port city of Bayern. A younger, more innocent Veronica clutches a bouquet of red camellias. Two of her friends call out, asking if she's heading home. They urge her to stay and celebrate, reminding her it's her very first birthday as an adult. Veronica gives them a polite smile and declines, saying her father is waiting for her at the church. She promises to see them later and quickly walks away. Once she's gone, her friends' expressions change. They know she was lying. One remarks that Veronica's father hates her, practically living at the church since her mother died. They pity her forced cheerfulness, concluding she's desperate for love because she can't get it at home. Meanwhile, Veronica greets townspeople with a warm smile. A woman asks about the flowers. Veronica explains they were her mother's favorite, hoping they might cheer her father up. Just then, a man dismisses her efforts, bluntly telling her to get married soon. Ignoring the harsh words, Veronica overhears others nearby gossiping about a red-eyed monster, which makes her feel uneasy. She clutches her flowers and prays for a peaceful birthday as she heads for the church. Just then, she sees her father about to leave their home and calls out, asking to go with him. He doesn't spare her a single glance, closing the door firmly behind him. Rejection stings, but she pushes it down. She tells herself that if she just smiles more and tries harder, he will eventually have to notice her. After all, something good is bound to happen on her birthday. When she arrives at the church, an eerie silence greets her. Pushing the doors open, she calls out for her father. Her words catch in her throat as her eyes lock onto the scene inside. Frozen in pure horror, the bouquet of red camellias slips from her numb fingers, scattering across the dark, stained floor. The scene inside the church is a complete disaster. Pews are overturned, and dark stains cover the stone floor. Veronica freezes, unable to process what she's seeing. The red camellias, a birthday gift for her father, slip from her numb fingers and scatter across the grim scene. Her eyes frantically scan the chaos until they land on a familiar figure lying motionless near the altar. It's her father. A choked whisper escapes her lips as she stumbles forward, her mind refusing to accept the reality before her. She collapses beside him, desperately calling his name, her pleas echoing in the terrifying silence. Shaking him, she begs for this all to be a nightmare, for him to just wake up. But she isn't alone. As she grieves, a dark presence looms behind her. A grotesque, horned figure with glowing red eyes materializes from the shadows. Before Veronica can even turn around, its monstrous hand descends towards her shoulder, sealing her fate on what was meant to be her happiest day. Staring up in horror, Veronica whispered the creature's name, Bahamut. The horned monster, with terrifying red eyes, loomed over her. Before she could scream, its monstrous hand reached out and seized her. Her world went black. When her senses returned, a chilling change had taken place. Her own eyes now glowed with the same crimson light. Barely able to speak, she begged for someone to save her from this new nightmare. Sometime later, a knight named Leon Burke arrived at the desolate church. Stepping over the debris, he surveyed the grim scene, wondering what could have happened here. He was shocked to find a single person left amidst the destruction. Approaching carefully, he knelt down and saw Veronica's face. Her glowing red eyes immediately told him she was no longer entirely human, though he was stunned to find a survivor at all. Her fate had been sealed, and a new, terrible chapter of her life was about to begin. Veronica's mind drifts back to a time when she was cherished. She remembers seeing only admiration in the eyes of the crowd. Surrounded by smiling faces, she soaked in the feeling, believing she was truly loved by everyone. But that perfect memory shatters violently. The world warps into a nightmare of pure terror. People scream and trample over each other, desperately trying to run away from her. Confused and heartbroken, she reaches out, silently begging them not to go. A man scrambling away on the floor points a trembling finger, screaming for the monster to stay back. The word hits her like a physical blow. "Monster?" she questions, her world falling apart. A look at her reflection reveals the horrifying truth. Her eyes now burn with a sinister, crimson glow. The shock is too much to bear. Her strength gives out, and she crumples to the ground, utterly broken and alone. Veronica snaps back to reality, her mind hazy. She wonders if the horrifying memories were just a dream. But an intense heat floods her body, and an unbearable dryness seizes her throat. She stumbles forward, a harsh cough forcing its way out and leaving a dark red stain on the floorboards. As her glowing eyes fixate on the spatter, a new, monstrous thirst takes hold. Just as the craving threatens to consume her, a firm hand grabs her arm. It's Leon. He looks down at her with grim certainty, realizing she is one of the assimilated. Terrified, Veronica tries to pull away, demanding to know who he is. Leon holds her steady, explaining the terrible choice she now faces. Even if she drinks the blood, the thirst will not go away. She can either die from this unending craving, or the transformation will eventually destroy her. Cutting through her panic, he poses a simple, life-or-death question. Does she want to live? Leon's question cuts through her panic. Did she want to live, even if it meant crawling through hell itself? He demands an answer, offering a quick end to her suffering if she chose otherwise. The weight of his words sends her reeling. Do I want to live? She wonders. Cruel whispers from her past echo in her mind. People who wished she'd never been born, who said they would have given up if they were her. But Veronica realizes that was never what she wanted. Despite all the pain, she had never once wished for her life to end. Tears stream down her face as she looks up at the night, her desperate voice cracking as she screams that she wants to live. Her raw plea hangs in the air. Leon's expression remains steady. He simply says, "Good," before placing a hand on her neck and pulling her closer. As Leon pulls Veronica into an embrace, a strange voice echoes in her mind, congratulating her on becoming a monster. But the moment his lips meet hers, the agonizing thirst vanishes. It's replaced by a cool, refreshing wave that calms her entire body. The sudden relief is so overwhelming that for a second, she wonders if this man is a god sent to save her. Stunned, she pushes away slightly, demanding to know what he just did. Leon's expression is dead serious. He states plainly that he saved her, calling her a monster without hesitation. Kneeling down to her level, he insists she listen closely because they are running out of time. He then delivers the shocking truth. She has been assimilated by a creature known as Bahamut. He explains that for a normal human, such a thing would have been fatal, leaving Veronica completely unable to process his words. Still reeling from the shock, Veronica's mind scrambles for a familiar thought. Just moments ago, she was desperately looking for her father. But Leon cuts through her daze, commanding her to stop thinking about useless things. From now on, he states firmly, she only needs to listen to him. As he speaks, the Holy Knights are securing the city, rounding up any survivors. Their deputy commander, the imposing Philip von Wittelsbach, is asked what should be done if they find an assimilated person. Philip's policy is brutally simple. He explains that any human who has merged with a monster is considered a heretic who has betrayed God. The standing order is absolute and terrifying. They are to be eliminated on sight. The weight of this new reality crashes down on Veronica. She isn't just a monster in her own eyes. To the world, she is now a heretic, a target for immediate execution. Horror floods her features as she understands the true danger she is in. The word executed echoes in Veronica's mind, this harsh new reality crashing down on her. Leon simply remarks that things have just gotten complicated. Before she can process his words, he swiftly lifts her into his arms. Flustered and confused, she demands to know what he is doing. His reply is cold and absolute. She is to close her eyes and stay quiet unless she wants the life he just saved to be wasted. Resigned, she clutches his armor as he carries her outside. They are met by the Holy Knight commander, Philip, who coolly notes that Leon took his time. As Leon emerges with Veronica hidden under a cloak, Philip's gaze lingers on the bundle in his arms. Another night explains their grim task. They are detaining the city's few survivors, a standard procedure to check for any signs of assimilation. Leon watches the scene unfold, his expression unreadable, holding the very heretic they are duty-bound to eliminate. Philip's gaze lands on the cloaked woman in Leon's arms. Assimilated, huh? He says, his tone dangerously calm. The word sends a jolt of pure panic through Veronica. A frantic thought surfaces. Does the deputy commander not know that the ultimate sign of a monster is red eyes? Her own crimson eye feels like a beacon, threatening to expose her at any moment. The tension between the two men is thick with history. Philip scoffs, telling Leon not to pretend he willingly gave up his position. He sneers that Leon was never his equal, accusing him of being a coward who simply ran away, abandoning his knights and his god. Hearing his full name, it all clicks for Veronica. This man is Leon Burke, the infamous renegade. Cutting through the memory, Philip demands to know who the woman is. Instead of answering, Leon just pulls her cloak tighter, a cunning smirk playing on his lips as he shields her from the commander's prying eyes. Leon's smirk widens as he taunts Philip, asking what he thinks of the situation. Before Philip can answer, Leon dismisses him entirely. He coldly remarks that as a fallen holy knight tangled up with a woman, he is simply falling deeper into the abyss, so far that even God wouldn't care anymore. The insult hits its mark. Philip seethes, disgusted that a man once so devoted could be swayed by worldly matters. He roars Leon's full name, shouting that he will never be forgiven for this betrayal. Unfazed by the commander's rage, Leon simply turns and walks away, carrying Veronica into the distance. Much later, he sets her down in a secluded barn. He notes with some annoyance that he's saved her life twice now, yet she still looks at him like a criminal. But for Veronica, everything finally clicks. The red hair, the scar over his eye, the reputation. She confirms his identity aloud. Leon Burke, the infamous Bahamut hunter. Even a child would know that name. Leon smirks, asking Veronica if she truly understands what kind of monster a Bahamut is. She remains silent, the question hanging in the air. For her, the name brings back terrible memories. Bahamut was known as a demon that appeared without warning, a plague on the world. Some whispered it was God's judgment, sent to punish human arrogance. Veronica remembers people dismissing it as a distant disaster, a problem for the southern lands. She once lived in the city of Bayern, a place people called beautiful and blessed by God. They all believed they were safe. But then, Bayern was attacked. The brutal assault shattered her home and her faith, leaving her with a single, horrifying question. Had God abandoned them? Back in the barn, Leon continues his explanation by the crackling fire. He says that on rare occasions, Bahamut creates assimilated individuals. When a human without divine power is taken over, their mind connects to the monsters. This link swiftly drives them mad, leading to a terrible and agonizing end. Leon continues his grim explanation. For an assimilated person to survive, they need a constant flow of divine power. The memory of his kiss flashes through Veronica's mind, and she understands it was a desperate transfer of energy, a lifeline. Back in the barn, Leon states the obvious. The only reason she's still alive is because of him. But Veronica cuts him off, her voice laced with confusion and suspicion. He's a monster hunter, and she is the very thing he's supposed to destroy. The Holy Knights ordered her execution. She demands to know why he saved her. His gaze becomes distant, remembering the true, horrific form of the monsters he hunts. He finally turns to her with a simple answer. She begged him to. The directness of his reply catches her off guard. Veronica grabs his arm, her desperation clear. She looks him in the eyes and declares that she believes he is the only one who can stop this nightmare. Veronica looks up at Leon, her expression filled with a desperate conviction. She tells him she believes he is the only one who can put an end to this disaster. Confused, he asks what she means. She explains that she's never even held a sword in her life. She is not some grand hero. A smirk crosses Leon's face. He clarifies that he never asked her to do anything great. She just has to do exactly what he says. He then continues his grim lesson on the Bahamut. He explains the monster's terrifying ability to multiply. It creates offspring equal to the number of human lives it takes. If it consumes an entire city, it spawns a force of monsters just as large. The only hopeful fact is that if the original is taken down, all its spawn will fall with it. Leaning against the wall, Leon reveals that this knowledge led him to a chilling hypothesis about the monsters currently swarming the entire southern continent. Leon reveals his chilling hypothesis with a confident smirk. He believes the entire swarm of monsters stems from a single source. If they can find and destroy the original one, the disaster plaguing the continent might finally end. Confused, Veronica asks what any of this has to do with her. Instead of answering directly, Leon questions her knowledge, asking what a behemoth is supposed to look like. Veronica gives the textbook description, a headless beast with a single red eye on its chest. A terrifying vision of a horned monster flashes through her mind, but she pushes it aside. She insists the creature she saw definitely had a head. Leon calmly agrees, then drops his bombshell theory. He believes the monster she encountered is the first behemoth, and if he's right, she is the only human with a connection to it. His request is simple. She just needs to follow him and report on the vision she sees, promising she won't ever have to pick up a sword. Veronica's expression hardens as she understands his proposition. She asks if he just wants to use her as a tool, clarifying that he doesn't need her, just her eyes. Leon leans back with a smirk, coolly remarking that she isn't completely stupid. Her trust wavers. Clenching her fist, she demands proof. How can she believe his wild theory that she's connected to the first monster without any evidence? Besides, she knows exactly who he is, Leon Burke. Her mind flashes through his infamous history, a commoner who became a legendary holy knight, only to betray everyone's expectations by fleeing from a crucial battle. The rumors surrounding him are dark and twisted. She concludes that nothing good can come from associating with such a man, especially if he plans on using her. She turns away, firmly stating she won't follow him. Still, a part of her hesitates. Looking back, she admits that she is grateful to him for saving her life, even though she was a complete stranger. As Veronica stands her ground, a sudden, sharp pain shoots through her chest. She gasps, stumbling as she clutches at her heart. Leon watches her crumble to the ground, his expression coolly detached. He walks over and calmly tells her there's something he forgot to mention. Leaning down, he gives her a chilling ultimatum. She has only two options. Either her head will eventually explode from the visions and she'll die, or she follows him. Veronica stares in horror, unable to believe what she's hearing. With a smirk, Leon asks if she still needs proof. Before she can protest, he draws his sword in a blindingly fast motion. Veronica cries out for him to wait, but the blade flashes past her face. A sharp sting follows, and a thin line of red appears just beside her eye. He holds the sword steady, asking if evidence is really necessary. After all, he reminds her, she would already be dead if it wasn't for him. He has made his point crystal clear. Despite the cold steel at her cheek, Veronica's fear erupts into defiance. She argues that a holy knight's duty is to protect the weak, not threaten them. Unimpressed, Leon pulls her closer and dismisses her outburst, telling her she still doesn't grasp the situation. He leans in, his voice low as he delivers a chilling truth. She is no longer one of the weak. She is more like a behemoth, a monster that preys on humans. His words shatter her reality. Tears well in her eyes as she confronts this horrifying possibility. In a world where gods are absent, this man is her only hope. Her desire to live overrides everything else. Defeated, Veronica whispers that she will go with him. Leon's response is a cold, indifferent agreement before he closes the distance between them. As their lips meet, a final, somber realization dawns on her. This man, her only hope for survival, will never be a god. As they travel through the desolate snow, Leon looks down from his horse. He reminds Veronica that his request remains simple. From this point forward, the moment she experiences any hallucinations or delusions, she is to report them to him. Left to walk behind, Veronica feels completely lost. She wonders what she's supposed to do now that everything has fallen apart. A horrifying vision of a ruined, burning city flashes through her mind. Suddenly, a heavy, warm cloak settles over her shoulders, startling her. Leon is standing right behind her. Confused by this unexpected act of care, she looks up at him and asks why he would do this for a monster. Leon pulls the cloak tighter around her, his expression unreadable. He confirms it's true that she is a monster, but that doesn't matter, because he needs her right now. Theirs is a partnership of necessity, not kindness. Leon's voice is steady as he explains this gesture isn't kindness. It's a necessary action that can't be avoided because he needs her right now. He walks away, leaving her to process his cold, practical logic. The word necessary rings in her ears. As she clutches the warm fabric, a new resolve takes root. Whatever his true intentions are, the fact remains that someone needs her, and she can use that to survive. With the will to live as her motivation, she decides she'll do anything it takes. A few days pass, and they arrive at a city called Seldorf. Leon states they will rest for the night and continue their journey in the morning. He warns her not to go outside, explaining that the city is chaotic with refugees. Alone in their room, Veronica looks out the window. A strange, overpowering smell fills the air, putting her on high alert. She wonders where the terrible scent is coming from. The overpowering smell is unmistakable. As Veronica stands in the dim room, she realizes with dawning horror that the entire place reeks of blood. Before she can react, a hand gently touches the back of her neck, startling her. She spins around to find Leon standing right behind her. He calmly explains that he noticed a wound was still there. He reminds her to apply the medicine well, clarifying that the power he gave her only stabilizes her mind. It won't heal physical injuries. His practical explanation leaves Veronica blushing and confused. Touching her lips, her mind flashes back to their kiss and his other unexpected gestures. She can't figure him out. One moment he's cold and distant, the next he's giving her the only sleeping bag in the freezing wilderness or making sure she eats. His actions seem to contradict his words at every turn, leaving her completely baffled by his true intentions. Veronica's mind raced as she stood in the room. It was difficult to see Leon's actions as kindness when he insisted they were purely for his own needs. Her father's old advice echoed in her head: always be suspicious when a man is overly kind, because his true intentions might be much darker. Her eyes landed on the single bed, and she nervously asked if they were expected to share it. A smirk played on Leon's lips as he questioned why not. After all, he reminded her, they had already shared a kiss, so was there any reason they couldn't share a bed now? The suggestion sent a deep blush across her face. Just as her mind spiraled, Leon changed his tune. He leaned back and asked if she wanted him to repent to God for his actions toward a 10-year-old. The comment immediately broke her out of her stupor. Annoyed, she declared that she was 20, a fully grown adult. With a knowing look, Leon calmly agreed. As Veronica's thoughts spiral, Leon breaks the silence. He smirks, recalling how she reacted when they shared that kiss. He then casually announces that she is, in fact, quite his type. The blunt statement leaves Veronica completely stunned. Stammering, she says she wasn't aware that holy knights even had preferences for women. Leon's light-hearted mood vanishes. He scoffs, asking if she was really that naive. He cynically remarks that many of the so-called holy men in the church lead secret lives and father children. The disgust in his voice is clear as he speaks of their hypocrisy. Finding herself agreeing with his harsh assessment, Veronica calls their actions vulgar. With the conversation getting heavy, Leon stands. He tells her to get some rest while he scouts the area. As the door clicks shut, Veronica is left alone again, more baffled than ever. This man was a complete enigma. Veronica stirs restlessly, trapped in a nightmare. In her dream, she finds herself walking toward a magnificent golden city, its spires reaching for the stars. For a moment, she's lost in wonder, questioning if such a place could be real. But the awe quickly turns to dread. She knows this isn't a future she wanted. The dreamscape crumbles into darkness, and a horrifying scene takes its place. A man lies broken at her feet. With his last breath, he calls her a monster. As her eye glows a terrifying red, Veronica can't deny it. A sinister grin spreads across her face as a monstrous hunger takes over. The thought of how delicious he looks consumes her. Just as the nightmare reaches its peak, she snaps awake with a choked gasp. Clutching the blankets, Veronica stares into the darkness, her body trembling. It was just a dream, but the terror felt all too real. The monster inside her was still there, waiting. Shaking from the nightmare, Veronica is hit with a horrifying memory. The dream reflected a terrible truth. She had consumed a person before. The hunger from her vision lingers, and she realizes with dread that it's not enough. It's not over yet. Her gaze falls on Leon, sleeping peacefully nearby. The monster inside her stirs, whispering that she just needs a little more. Driven by this dark impulse, she creeps toward him. As her hand reaches for his neck, her eyes glow with a sinister red light. Suddenly, a firm grip stops her wrist. Leon is awake, his eyes open and alert. He calmly asks what she thinks she is doing. The question shatters her trance. Veronica rips her hand away, horrified by her own actions. Stumbling back, she covers her face, frantically insisting that she isn't a monster. But the denial is useless. She already knows the terrible things she is capable of. The fight drains out of Veronica as Leon pulls her close. Trapped in his arms, she realizes there is no peace for her. The horrifying memory she tried to forget resurfaces, bringing a sharp pain to her heart. She finally confesses the full, terrible truth of her past. She remembers becoming a monster, a powerful being called Bahamut. Staring down at a golden city, she was overwhelmed by a sinister, unbearable hunger. A dying holy knight was at her feet, and her dark instincts took complete control. Through tears, she admits she consumed him. But instead of recoiling in horror, Leon holds her steady. He tells her firmly that she wasn't truly the one who did it. His reassurance can't break through her despair. She covers her face, tormented by a cruel voice from her memories. It whispers that everything is her fault, even her own mother's suffering before she was born. As Veronica spirals, a cruel voice from her past resurfaces. She remembers a broken man telling a small, crying child that everything was her fault. He ordered her not to cry, not to act pitiful. She had learned to swallow her pain whole. Back in the present, Leon takes her hands. He gently asks what she's trying so hard to hold back, encouraging her to finally let it go. Veronica is stunned. These were the words she had longed to hear her entire life, yet they were coming from this strange and terrifying man. The kindness is too much. Overwhelmed, she begs him to do something, confessing that the pain feels like it's going to end her. The air around her seems to burn with the heat of her trauma. Amidst the chaos, Leon is the only thing that feels cool and real. He leans in, pressing a kiss to her lips. It's a moment of stillness. He doesn't leave, and she realizes she can't go either. In the stillness that follows their intense connection, Veronica rests against Leon. Her mind goes quiet. For a brief moment, it feels as if they are the only two people left in a completely ruined world. While she finds a temporary calm, Leon's mind races. He pieces together the details from her confession. He realizes the Golden City from her vision is the holy city of Kart, and the thought of her monstrous power heading their spell's disaster. The weight of this knowledge brings a grim look to his face as his thoughts turn to his father. Suddenly, Veronica begins to stir, trapped in a nightmare. She cries out the names of her loved ones, lost in the memories of her past. Leon watches her, his expression unreadable. He understands that whether her family survived or not, her life is destined to be a tragedy. He gently reaches out, his touch grazing her skin. He makes a firm vow that no matter the outcome, she will stay bound to him. In a rare moment of calm, Veronica sits down for a meal with Leon. Without a word, he slides an ornate dagger across the table toward her. She stares at the beautiful weapon, stunned, and asks if it's truly for her. Leon simply tells her to pay him back later. When she doesn't respond, he asks if she dislikes it, explaining that he chose the red camellia design on the sheath to match her eyes. A genuine smile finally breaks through Veronica's usual gloom. She admits she loves camellias and has always wanted a weapon of her own, though she never expected to receive one like this. His gaze then shifts, noticing she's applied ointment to an injury on her neck. He leans in, his fingers brushing against her skin as he points out that the mark is still visible. Veronica flinches from the unexpected touch. With a hint of a smirk, Leon tells her to spread the cream out more carefully next time. He warns her that the ointment won't work unless she applies it properly. Completely flustered by his closeness, Veronica admits that he's very confusing. She explains that if he was going to be mean, he should have stuck with it. Since she's never been treated with kindness, his sudden shifts in attitude are hard for her to handle. As she speaks, a small laugh escapes Leon. He quickly denies it when she points it out, but she insists he's still laughing. With a playful smirk, he claims it's just his normal expression. Changing the subject, Leon tells her to calm down and eat, casually mentioning she must be hungry after working so hard last night. The comment makes Veronica's mind flash back to their intense kiss, and her face turns bright red. Mortified by the memory and his teasing, she declares she won't eat anymore. Leon simply raises an eyebrow, coolly asking if she really means that. An awkward silence hangs over the table, so thick that both Veronica and Leon hide their faces in their hands. Breaking the tension, Leon decides to double down on his teasing. With a dramatic sigh, he declares that he prepared this meal just for her gracious self, adding that it would be the honor of his life if she'd just take one bite. Before she can answer, he spears a piece of steak and holds the fork out to her. Veronica is frozen, unsure how to react to this sudden act of service. But Leon's motives are far from kind. He coldly thinks to himself that making her fall in love might make her easier to control, believing that people in love are the most blind. Later, Veronica wanders into another room and notices a framed photograph. It's a woman holding a bouquet of red camellias, reminding her of the dagger he just gave her. As she studies the picture, Leon's voice suddenly cuts through the quiet from right behind her. He remarks that the woman in the photo looks just like her. The older woman, Hannah, approaches and proudly identifies the woman in the photo as her daughter. She explains that her daughter is about Veronica's age and now lives on the distant Karth estate, happily married with a child of her own. Moved by the story, Veronica quietly notes how much Hannah must love her. Suddenly, Hannah gets a mischievous glint in her eye. She asks if Leon is Veronica's husband and if the two of them are running away together. A completely flustered Veronica quickly denies everything. Hannah's expression softens into one of motherly concern. She gently holds Veronica's face and advises her not to go too far from home, reminding her to think of how much her parents would miss her. The simple, kind words are too much for Veronica to handle. Tears begin to stream down her face as she remembers her own lost family. She tries to claim she's just missing her mother, but her deep sorrow is impossible to hide. Hannah gently comforts the weeping Veronica, telling her not to bottle up her feelings. Still assuming they're a couple on the run, she asks where Veronica's husband is when she needs him most. Right on cue, Leon appears in the doorway. A delighted Hannah exclaims that he's right there. She quickly grabs an unsuspecting Leon and pulls him directly in front of Veronica. With a cheerful, matchmaking grin, she takes their hands and joins them, insisting they hold on to each other. A flustered Veronica tries to explain that he isn't her husband, but her protest is lost in the moment. As their hands touch, she looks up at him, her red eyes wide with surprise. Leon stares down at their joined hands, his usual calculating expression replaced by a flicker of genuine shock. For a brief second, his composure cracks as an unexpected connection passes between them, leaving him just as stunned as she is. After giving Veronica's hand a final, comforting squeeze, Hannah tells her not to cry and leaves the room. Veronica and Leon are left standing alone, their hands still clasped together in an awkward silence. Leon breaks the tension with a smirk, joking that he seems to have become her husband in the confusion. He then playfully asks how long she intends to keep holding his hand. Mortified, Veronica snatches her hand back, insisting that he was the one who grabbed it first. But her embarrassment instantly vanishes, replaced by a cold, rising panic. Her red eyes widen in alarm as a deeply unsettling feeling washes over her. Leon immediately senses her distress and asks what's wrong. Clutching her dress, Veronica realizes with absolute horror that this strange, suffocating presence feels exactly like her traumatic encounter with Bahamut. The monster from her past has returned to haunt her. The terrifying sensation sends Veronica spiraling into a vivid, waking nightmare. Her mind flashes back to the chaos in Isseldorf, where the monstrous Bahamut rampaged through the streets. She remembers the city's impenetrable walls and wonders how the creatures could have possibly gotten inside. The memory is sharp and agonizingly clear as she and Leon watch the destruction from behind a barrel. Suddenly, one of the grotesque figures turns, its single, glowing eye locking directly onto her. Veronica's blood runs cold. She questions how it could have noticed her while she was hidden, but that question is instantly replaced by a far more horrifying realization. The true threat wasn't just in the streets. As she looks down, an overwhelming presence surges from below. Her eyes widen in absolute terror as she understands they are also swarming underground, right beneath her feet. There is nowhere to run. Her mind plunges back to the chaos in Isseldorf. A horrifying truth dawns. The monsters aren't just on the streets. They're underground, swarming up through the sewers. Grim and focused, Leon asks how many she can sense. Veronica trembles, admitting she doesn't know, but fears there are enough to completely overrun the city. Her first instinct is to call for the Holy Knights, but a cold dread stops her. She recalls their unforgiving law. Humans merged with monsters are considered heretics and dealt with on sight. Calling for help would mean signing her own death warrant. Leon confirms her unspoken fear. Waiting for reinforcements is not an option, he explains. They would arrive far too late. The city's problems must be resolved from within. Filled with a desperate hope, Veronica grabs his arm, asking if he can be the one to save them. His hand rests on his sword, his expression resolute. Veronica looks up at Leon, her voice trembling with desperate hope. She asks if he is the one who can save the city from this overwhelming threat. Leon's expression is grim and unreadable. He offers no empty promises, instead giving a single, firm command. She needs to go hide somewhere safe. He gently guides her toward a protected alley, placing himself between her and the approaching creatures. As she retreats, Veronica tries to reassure herself, remembering this is Leon Burke, a man of legendary strength. Her faith is immediately rewarded. Leon becomes a blur of motion, his blade flashing through the darkness. He moves with brutal efficiency, and the monsters fall around him before they can even react. The alleyway is cleared in an instant. The sight is a stark reminder of the chaos in Asseldorf, where a younger Leon had fought just as fiercely to defend the city's walls. Back then, he was one commander among many. Now, he stands as their only hope. As chaos erupts, Veronica insists they must evacuate the citizens. Leon stops her, giving a cold command, go inside and pack their luggage. He explains the drawbridge will soon rise, and staying behind is a death sentence since the city's forces are no match for the Horde. Veronica is horrified, asking if he truly intends to abandon the town and its people. Leon's response is brutal and pragmatic. He states that not all humans can be saved, and a choice must be made. He declares that he has chosen her, betting on her survival over the fate of the entire city. When she tries to argue against abandoning innocent people, he forcefully reminds her of his authority. He grabs her shoulders, his gaze intense, and demands she obey his orders without question. It's clear this is not a negotiation. With Leon's orders echoing in her mind, Veronica hurries down the inn staircase. But panic makes her legs tremble, and she loses her footing, tumbling down the remaining steps. She lands in a heap, a sharp pain shooting through her ankle. Lying there, she feels a wave of frustration. She thinks of Leon, standing guard against a sea of monsters with nothing but his sword. While he puts his life on the line, she can't even make it down a flight of stairs. The contrast is crushing. Suddenly, a voice rings in her head, asking a simple, powerful question. Did she want to live? It wasn't a choice, but a command. She had to live. This thought gives her the strength she needs. Gritting her teeth, Veronica forces herself back up. She grabs the heavy sack of belongings and limps the rest of the way, her resolve hardening with every painful step. She finally rejoins the others, ready to follow Leon out of this nightmare. With a newly hardened resolve, Veronica limps down the final steps, her injured ankle throbbing with every move. But she's immediately stopped by two men from the inn. They question her sanity, asking if she really intends to go outside while monsters swarm the city. Veronica tries to reassure them, explaining that her friends are waiting just outside. Her words do little to calm the growing panic. The moment someone recognizes Leon Burke through the doorway, the mood turns ugly. Seeing the packed bag in her hands, a man shouts that they're being abandoned. The fear spreads like wildfire as the crowd closes in, their whispers turning to accusations. They can't believe their holy knight would just leave them to their fate. Just as the hostility peaks, a kind older woman gently takes Veronica's hand. She begs her to stay, insisting the city's strong walls will hold. But Veronica knows the truth. As her crimson eyes flare, she understands with chilling certainty, staying here means inevitable doom for them all. The older woman holds onto her hope, insisting that the city is blessed and will be fine. But Veronica cuts through the false optimism, declaring that it won't be. She reveals the horrifying truth. The problem isn't the breach in the outer wall. The monster came from within the city, emerging from the sewers beneath them. This means the walls they trust so much are completely useless. The crowd immediately rejects her story, finding it impossible to believe. Desperate, Veronica urges them to evacuate, but an older man steps in. He refuses to leave based on uncertain claims, choosing to trust in the city's defenses. Realizing she can't save them, Veronica gives up. She tells everyone to make their own choice and turns to leave. Just as she reaches for the door, the older woman calls out, telling her to escape safely for her parents' sake. Veronica pauses, her path forward now heavy with their decision. The old woman's kind words make Veronica pause. She turns back with a sad smile, quietly thanking the woman for her kindness. But her decision is already made. Her expression hardens as she tells Leon it's time to go. Outside, Leon is waiting with his horse. He takes her hand, and she confirms she's ready. In one smooth motion, he pulls her onto the saddle and gets on behind her. He tells her not to think about anything else, just to hold on tight. From this moment on, their only goal is to run as fast as they can. They ride hard, leaving the city behind them. In the distance, the huge gates of Asseldorf grind shut with a heavy, final sound. The townspeople chose to trust the walls they built, trapping themselves inside with the very monster Veronica warned them about. As she and Leon escape, they leave the city and its stubborn residents to their grim fate. As they ride away from the sealed gates of Asseldorf, the grim reality sets in for Veronica. She looks back, her voice trembling as she asks if the people they left behind are all going to die. Overwhelmed by guilt, she blames herself. She admits she had a bad feeling from the very beginning, that the scent of blood wasn't just her imagination. If only she had spoken up earlier, she thinks, things might have ended differently. Leon cuts through her regret with a dose of harsh reality. He tells her it wouldn't have changed a thing. He then reminds her that she is simply following his orders to escape. The choice to abandon the city, he states firmly, was his decision alone. Suddenly, Veronica understands. The condition that she must obey him without question wasn't about control. It was designed to protect her. Leon was taking the full weight of this terrible choice onto his own shoulders. He wasn't offering her a deal back then, he was offering her absolution. He would bear all the guilt so that she wouldn't have to. After their frantic escape, Veronica and Leon find a moment of quiet in a snow-covered forest. Veronica gently strokes the horse's muzzle, crediting its incredible speed for their freedom. Without it, she remarks, they'd still be trapped in Asseldorf. Seeking a bit of normalcy, she asks Leon for the animal's name. He coolly informs her it doesn't have one. When Veronica offers to name it herself, Leon immediately shuts her down. She presses him, asking why not. His response is chilling. He states that he doesn't bother naming things that are going to die, revealing a deeply pragmatic and harsh worldview. Stunned by his coldness, Veronica turns away from him. In a quiet act of defiance, she leans close to the horse and whispers its new name, Nightstar. She tells the animal not to pay attention to those mean words, reassuring it that it is loved. Veronica internally scoffs at Leon's earlier words. His promise that she would live a long life felt utterly ridiculous. It seemed like he was just saying what he thought she needed to hear, a cold comfort given their grim situation. As she turns to move, a sharp pain shoots through her ankle, and she cries out. The pragmatic knight she saw moments ago disappears. Leon is instantly kneeling at her side, his expression serious as he takes her foot in his hands. He asks when she got hurt. A little stunned by his sudden concern, Veronica admits she twisted it while carrying bags earlier. He examines her ankle carefully, determining that it isn't broken. He then produces a small, warm pouch from his supplies and gently places it on her injury, warning her not to move too much. The unexpected act of kindness leaves Veronica speechless. Later, huddled by the warmth of their campfire, she looks at him and offers a quiet, heartfelt thank you. Leon looks over at her, his expression softening slightly. He quietly states that no one has ever done something like that for him before. A little flustered, Veronica explains that she's always been clumsy. She's used to falling down and just dealing with the pain by herself, so his kindness feels a bit strange to her. She then notices the warm cloak he draped over her shoulders and offers it back, asking if he isn't cold. Leon dismisses her concern, telling her there's no need. However, he adds a dose of his usual pragmatism. If they don't want to freeze to death out here, they will have to sleep close together to share body heat. Veronica is completely floored by his blunt statement. Soon, the two are sitting side by side under a shared blanket, the silence thick with awkwardness. She frets internally about how close he is. Remembering her nightmares, she worries that she might wake him up again, adding that she would feel awful if he couldn't rest properly because of her. Leon confidently tells Veronica that he won't wake up, no matter what she does in her sleep. Confused, she asks him how he can be so sure. His response is swift and unexpected. Saying he'll handle it before they go to sleep, he reaches out, tangles a hand in her dark hair, and pulls her into a kiss. The contact sends a jolt through Veronica. An abnormal, overwhelming urge she can't control rises within her. It's a desperate hunger, one that makes her feel pitiful. She understands that this monstrous need, when held back, just expresses itself in other ways. And Leon, a man overflowing with a sweet, holy power that calms her, is now the center of that intense focus. A powerful impulse takes over her thoughts. She wants to possess him entirely. As she clings to him, a dark and frightening determination begins to take root in her mind. The unexpected kiss sends a jolt through Veronica, awakening a deep, monstrous hunger she can't control. It's an overwhelming need for the holy power that calms her darkness. She clings to him tightly, thinking she would rather die buried with him than ever be separated. The raw intensity of the moment clearly takes Leon by surprise as well. He pulls back slightly, gently covering her eyes with his hand as he tries to process his own reaction. He wonders if he's so drawn to her because of her unique eyes, or if he simply likes her face. Internally, Leon tries to dismiss his feelings as a natural impulse. But he knows it's something more than that, an unnatural desire he must fight to suppress. As they kneel together in the desolate snow, the two are trapped in a silent struggle, bound by a dangerous and irresistible connection they can't escape. Veronica reels back in shock, demanding to know what he meant. Completely bewildered by his sudden actions, she asks if he's some kind of cultist. Leon ignores her outburst, his focus already on their next move. He calmly reveals their destination is St. Cart. Adjusting his gear, he explains that if her vision was true, the city is the enemy's primary target. The stakes are impossibly high. If St. Cart falls, the entire continent is doomed. However, Veronica is hesitant about the path he's chosen. She points out that crossing the wilderness is dangerous, as it's the sacred ground of the Great Temple. Entering without permission is forbidden and met with severe punishment. Leon dismisses her concerns entirely. He declares they don't have time to worry about sacred or tainted land. Let them try to punish him. As she continues to protest, he cuts her off with a final, chilling command. He's told her many times before, all she needs to do is obey him. Leon looks down at her, his expression unyielding. He makes it perfectly clear that he doesn't need her opinion. His cold words leave Veronica speechless. While he prepares for their journey, she sits alone in the snow, completely frustrated. She thinks he's being too harsh, but beneath her anger is genuine worry. She's simply concerned that something will go wrong. Soon, Leon returns, announcing that everything is ready to go. He extends a hand to help her up, but she defiantly swats it away, insisting she can stand on her own. True to her word, she pushes herself to her feet, but her legs are weak, and she immediately loses her balance. In an instant, Leon catches her, pulling her firmly against him. He leans in close, telling her that if she wants his help, all she has to do is ask. Trapped in his arms, Veronica can only look up at him, completely flustered. He has once again proven who's in charge. Flustered, Veronica pulls away from Leon's grasp. She confronts him, telling him not to confuse her. He was just being harsh, and now he's acting kind again. Frustrated, she demands to know what he truly wants from her. Leon walks toward her, his gaze unwavering. He says he thinks he's told her many times what he wants, her, and for her to stop running from him. Taking her hand, he pulls her close. He then makes a solemn vow. No matter what happens, he has no intention of letting her go. Whether they must cross the forbidden wilderness or face hell itself, he won't release her until they have caught and defeated their enemy. He explains that to turn the tide of this war, he absolutely needs her. She is essential to his mission, and he will not let her leave his side. Flustered, Veronica pulls away from Leon's grasp, but he just leans in closer with a knowing smirk. He quietly asks if she still hates him. Before she can even process the question, He takes her hand, softly admitting that his own heart is racing. The confession makes Veronica blush, and she snatches her hand away. Annoyed and confused, she tells him this isn't fair. If he's going to confuse her like this, he might as well just keep being harsh. Leon calmly agrees that it's unfair, but Veronica is completely overwhelmed. He's a holy knight, a man of God, who doesn't even know her real name. She feels a suffocating weight, as if a shackle is keeping her from running away. His declaration that she is absolutely necessary now feels like nothing more than a dirty trick. Unconcerned with her inner turmoil, Leon simply turns and says it's time for them to go, leaving her to deal with her conflicting emotions on her own. Veronica couldn't shake Leon's words. His claim that she was absolutely necessary was the kind of thing no one could simply walk away from. She realized that sometimes your own worth is defined by what someone else sees in you. A few days later, they traveled together across the vast, snow-covered landscape. Leon finally announced they were nearing the dreaded wilderness. Suddenly, Veronica's enhanced vision picked up a faint campfire in the distance. Relieved, she pointed it out, thinking they had found other travelers. But Leon sensed the danger immediately, pulling her back and ordering her to stop. His instincts were sharp. A group of rough-looking men, armed with crude weapons, emerged from the shadows and surrounded them. Their leader, a scarred man with a menacing grin, rested a huge axe on his shoulder. He gave them a chilling warning. If they took one more step, they wouldn't be leaving this place alive. Surrounded by the armed men, Leon and Veronica are in a serious bind. The scarred leader gives them a final warning. Take another step, and they're not leaving alive. Unfazed, Leon calmly shields Veronica, refusing to back down. He turns the question around, demanding the man identify himself first. The leader claims he's a guard who escaped from a place called a Seldorf. Leon spins a similar story. He introduces himself as a fellow runaway guard, traveling with his wife to a town named Kart. Veronica's eyes go wide at being called his wife, but she wisely keeps quiet. Unfortunately, the lie backfires. A sinister grin spreads across the leader's face as he repeats the name Kart. He calls their meeting a fortunate coincidence. Suddenly, the air grows heavy. It's clear that Leon's quick thinking has just led them from one dangerous situation right into another. The hostile standoff strangely shifts into a tense fireside chat. The scarred leader introduces himself as Volland, a merchant. He claims it's a lucky coincidence, as his group was also heading to Kart and needed companions. It's clear Leon's quick lie has walked them straight into a carefully laid trap. Playing along, Leon gives a fake name, Noah Berg. Volland immediately questions the surname, noting it's often given to people with unclear origins. He bluntly asks if Leon is an illegitimate child or an orphan. Leon calmly replies, neither, refusing to give him any information. Noticing Veronica shivering in the cold, another man from the group offers her a warm drink to help. Just as she reaches for it, Leon swiftly pulls her back against his chest. He wraps a protective arm around her, coolly informing the man that his wife doesn't drink alcohol. Veronica is left stunned and blushing in his sudden, firm embrace. The man who offered the drink laughs at Leon's possessiveness, calling him a devoted husband. But another, more calculating man steps in. He explains that it's a local custom to share a drink with guests as a sign of goodwill. The offer is no longer friendly. It's a test they can't refuse. Unfazed, Leon acknowledges the tradition but offers a clever solution. He states that one person can drink on behalf of their family. With everyone watching, he declares he will drink his wife's share as well. The men find this amusing, teasing him for being a jealous newlywed. To maintain their cover, Leon accepts the cup and drinks it down. Veronica looks on, knowing this has nothing to do with jealousy. Later, the truth becomes clear. Leon stumbles, clutching his head in pain. He realizes with dread that they put something in the drink. His attempt to protect Veronica has left him completely vulnerable to their enemies. With Veronica soundly asleep, one of Volland's men stood over her. He asked his leader what they should do next. Should they just grab the supplies and leave, or try to get more information out of them? As the men deliberated, Veronica was gently moved aside. Her head came to rest against Leon's leg. He was awake, a knowing smirk playing on his lips. Leon slowly rose to his feet, placing his sword next to the still sleeping Veronica. Figuring a little more rest wouldn't hurt her, he decided to handle this himself. He stepped out into the cold, moonlit clearing where Volland was waiting. The man's face was a mask of pure shock, seeing Leon still standing after drinking that potent mixture. Leon met his gaze, his calm expression making it clear that their little trap had just backfired spectacularly. Leon faced the ambushers with a completely relaxed smile. He casually told Valen that he only got up because nature called, then sarcastically asked if permission was needed for that around here. Valen's grin was sharp. He replied that it really depended on the person. Someone confident they could handle a group on their own wouldn't need to ask. But anyone else? They would need permission from every single one of his men. The threat was crystal clear as armed figures emerged from the trees. A flicker of regret crossed Leon's face. He shouldn't have left Veronica. He resolved to finish this quickly. But it was already too late. Back in their room, Veronica was startled awake. A hand was clamped firmly over her mouth, stifling any sound. Philip von Wittelsbach loomed over her, a chilling look in his eyes. He whispered a terrifying warning. If she made even the slightest noise, he would silence her for good. The fight had already begun. One of Valen's men was down for the count in the snow as Leon's sword clashed against the leader's. Valen smirked, taunting Leon that he seemed to have the luxury of worrying about his wife. Leon's grip tightened on his weapon, and a chilling grin spread across his face. He replied that his wife was quite difficult to put to sleep, so it was best not to wake her unless absolutely necessary. His threat was unmistakable. Elsewhere, another group had been observing the chaos. They identified the fighter with absolute certainty: the red hair, the telltale scar, and the legendary holy sword, Apocalypse. It was Leon Burke. Back in the room, Philip held Veronica captive, his words dripping with contempt. He found it ridiculous that a supposed messenger of God would drag a woman into the wilderness. He then made a strange comment about the people of the Kaisenmere Empire, leaving Veronica terrified and completely bewildered by his words. Philip continued his chilling monologue, revealing that the people of the Kaisenmere Empire were kept in the dark. They believed God would protect them, unaware of a hidden threat named Bahamut due to controlled information. He then presented Veronica with a twisted choice, suggesting she entertain him instead of facing an unknown fate. He called her a feast brought to him by that lunatic, Leon. His plan was clear. He would take Veronica, while his men would strip Leon of everything he owned. As his intentions became terrifyingly obvious, a tear escaped Veronica's eye. But her fear quickly hardened into pure resolve. She knew Leon needed her, but she realized waiting for a rescue was no longer an option. She was done being a victim. In a swift, desperate motion, she acted. Philip let out a sharp cry, stumbling backward as he clutched a fresh wound on his arm, his face a mask of disbelief. A past incident left Veronica deeply shaken. After the danger had passed, she sat on the floor and looked up at Leon, her red eyes filled with a dawning horror. She asked if he knew from the start that their companions weren't ordinary merchants. Leon quietly explained the signs she had missed. True merchants hire mercenaries for protection. They don't carry the weapons themselves. As he wrapped a blanket around her shivering shoulders, he shared a grim piece of wisdom. He believed that bad people don't just appear because the world gets messy. In his eyes, evil has always existed and always will, no matter the era. His words stuck with her, echoing in her mind as she watched him now. Seeing him vulnerable after his fight, she reached out a tentative hand and gently touched his auburn hair. With so many bad people in the world, she asked why he didn't wear a helmet to protect himself. Leon meets her gaze, a slight smile playing on his lips as he answers her question. He explains that Bahamut always targets the head. Confused by his logic, Veronica asks why he would intentionally expose his most critical spot. In response, Leon presents her with 3 strange, multiple-choice answers. The first might be that he wants a quick end. The second is that he simply hates the restrictive feeling of wearing a helmet. The third, and perhaps most calculated, is that he wants his enemies to come directly for him. He tells her to pick which one she thinks is the truth. Veronica is stunned into silence, concluding that all his reasons sound dangerously reckless. Changing the subject, she asks why he bought her a sword. He replies with a simple analogy: even a child grabs a kitchen knife when robbers break in. But she presses on, clarifying if he thinks she has the potential to defeat Bahamut. She recalls the strange power she felt earlier and declares that if she has this capability, she wants to learn how to fight properly. With newfound resolve, Veronica declared that she wanted to become stronger. Leon looked at her, finally understanding what she reminded him of. He didn't think she was just mentally strong. In his experience, anyone who could witness a terrible end and recover so quickly was often trying to fill a deep void within themselves, much like him. He saw her not as a fragile bird, but as a sea hawk ready to endure the harshest winter. Since she had nothing left to lose, he figured she might as well try. But he set a firm rule: she was not allowed to complain about the difficulty. He made it clear he couldn't stand people who gave up halfway through. Unfazed, Veronica calmly told him not to worry. Quiet confidence radiated from her as she promised she was much tougher than he thought. A new path was set, and she was ready to walk it, no matter the cost. Veronica gripped the sword, surprised to find it wasn't as heavy as she'd imagined from stories. As she struggled to carry it, Leon called out from his horse, telling her that was good and she should keep it up. Confused, she listened as he laid out his first rule of training. She was never to let go of the sword. From now on, she had to carry it everywhere, even when eating or sleeping. This wasn't what she had in mind. Veronica protested, asking if he wasn't going to teach her basic stances or how to properly swing the weapon. Leon calmly dismissed her, stating she wouldn't be able to swing it properly anyway. When she insisted it wasn't that heavy, he simply told her to keep carrying it. Fired up by his dismissive attitude, Veronica decided to prove him wrong. Mustering her strength, she told herself she could handle it and swung the blade with all her might. The sword sliced through the air and effortlessly cut down a nearby tree, revealing a shocking amount of raw power. The massive tree crashed to the ground, leaving Veronica and Leon in stunned silence. Leon stared, completely bewildered by what he'd just witnessed. Breaking the quiet, Veronica excitedly asked if he saw it, describing the feeling as if the very air had ripped apart. Leon dryly confirmed that his eyesight was perfectly fine. Still buzzing, Veronica realized she hadn't properly appreciated the sword before. She gripped the hilt, ready to repeat the amazing feat with a determined shout. She swung again with all her might, but this time, nothing happened. The blade felt heavy and useless. Frustrated, she asked Leon why she couldn't do it again. He calmly patted his horse and replied that he was unable to tell her, since he wasn't a merged one. Annoyed by his vague answer, Veronica reminded him of his promise to train her and demanded a serious response. After a long pause, Leon simply reached out his hand, stating that at her current level, there was only one piece of advice he could offer. Leon finally revealed his single piece of advice. He told Veronica her first step was to build her physical strength, calling it the only immediate solution. Unimpressed, Veronica reminded him of his promise to actually teach her, voicing her frustration with his methods. Instead of responding with words, Leon reached out and pulled her forward, swiftly lifting her onto his horse to ride in front of him. As they moved through the snow, he explained that strength was the most important factor, even if it seemed obvious. Veronica countered that she used to dance and was much stronger than she looked. Leon calmly agreed, saying he had already figured as much. When she asked why, he simply said it wasn't because she looked skinny. He paused, a brief memory of his own mother, a beautiful dancer, flashing in his mind. Pulled from his thoughts by Veronica asking what he meant, Leon simply kept his gaze forward, lost in the past. As they rode through the snowy landscape, Leon observed that for someone who didn't eat much, she had a surprising amount of muscle. Flattered, Veronica agreed, proudly stating her confidence in her physical abilities. Leon chuckled, teasing that she must be too good with her body, considering how often she sprained her ankles. Annoyed, she shot back that she was simply good at using her body, not overconfident. He conceded she was better than most, then gently touched her hair, noting it was quite short for a dancer. A blush crept onto Veronica's face as she explained her father had hated long hair, thinking it looked vulgar. With a hint of pride, she added that she had trimmed it herself. After a brief pause, a memory of her long hair flashing by, Leon simply called it unfortunate. He then added that her haircut was terribly uneven in the back. Flustered, Veronica told him to stop lying as they continued their journey into the sunset. Their journey through the snow concludes at a massive, temple-like structure just as the sun begins to set. Inside, they stand before a towering statue of an armored knight, completely bald. Veronica remarks that the rumors were true. The statue really didn't have any hair. Leon casually replies that 20 years ago it did. Turning to her, he asks how old she thinks he is, quickly adding that he wasn't around back then. Annoyed by his teasing, Veronica asks why he always treats her like a child. He responds by gently touching her hair, asking if she truly hates it. Taking her hand, Leon admits he does it on purpose. When Veronica demands a reason for his behavior, he gives her a straight answer. In the quiet hall, he confesses that he acts this way because he wants her to like him, leaving her completely speechless. Leon's sudden confession hangs in the silent temple hall. He tells Veronica he teases her for one simple reason: he wants her to like him. The directness of his words leaves her completely stunned. Her red eyes widen as she tries to process what he just said. After a long pause, she finally finds her voice and asks him why. Why would he want her to like him? The question echoes unanswered as Veronica's mind drifts to her past. She realizes that, at some point, she had started wishing for the same thing: for people to cherish her. A memory surfaces, a happy family, a little girl holding her parents' hands, radiating a joy Veronica desperately craved. She explains that this longing is why she learned to dance. When she performed, at least for a moment, everyone's eyes were on her. As the memory fades, a knowing smile touches her lips. She finally understands his feeling. With her past flashing before her eyes, Veronica finally understands Leon's confession. But he isn't finished, adding that he feels the same way. Confused, Veronica asks what he means. Leon looks at her, his expression unreadable. He admits he also wants her to like him, so intensely that she might lose herself. The weight of his words leaves her stunned. Veronica had always thought they were similar, his actions a desperate cry to be seen, like her own. But looking at him now, she realizes he doesn't seem lonely in the slightest. Trying to piece things together, she asks if the rumors about him are true. His playful demeanor instantly vanishes. With a dark smirk, he grabs her chin, his grip firm. He asks if she's talking about the stories of him abandoning his comrades on the battlefield or his obsession with women. The sudden shift from gentle to menacing catches her completely off guard. Trying to make sense of his menacing turn, Veronica asks if he's hiding a secret child somewhere. Leon flatly denies it, surprising her with a much bigger declaration. He has no intention of ever being with a woman. He insists that's how it has always been, and will always be. Veronica can't accept that. She asks what would happen if he fell in love. With a confident smirk, Leon says even then it wouldn't matter. He considers love a foolish distraction he would never allow himself. Veronica clenches her fist. She understands his life is dedicated to a higher power, but his cold certainty is frustrating. She challenges him, asking how he can be so sure when love can happen in an instant. In a flash, Leon closes the distance between them. He leans in close, his intensity startling her. He quietly agrees that some people do fall in love just like that, leaving her completely stunned and breathless. Veronica reflects on the nature of love. She thinks about how meeting someone's gaze can feel like salvation after sinking into despair. Finding her voice, she looks up at Leon and tells him not to be so confident about everything. After all, she adds with a small smile, life is long. But her confidence vanishes when Leon suddenly grabs her wrist. His expression darkens as he pulls her close. He argues that a love that burns everything can also cool in an instant. He explains that some people knowingly let the love of their life pass them by, finding it easier than letting go of what they already have. Before she can respond, he abruptly shoves her back. Veronica stumbles, stunned by his aggression. Without another word, Leon turns away, telling her to rest while he goes to get the luggage. She's left alone, clutching her cloak, trying to make sense of the man who is both her savior and her tormentor. Alone now, Leon walks through a grand hall and lets out a heavy sigh. His mind is clearly troubled by more than just his recent argument with Veronica. He thinks back to an old lesson. It was said that God gathered life force from the wilderness and gave it to mankind, but only a chosen few could wield this divine power. There was a dangerous catch, however. If one of the chosen stayed in the wilderness too long, their power would eventually drain away completely. Looking down at his hand, Leon watches as the last wisps of his divine energy disappear. He accepts that he's reached his limit and must now return to where he truly belongs. His thoughts then flash to a grim and bloody memory. A voice calls out to him as deputy commander. He stands over his knights, who are all gravely injured after a devastating conflict, their armor stained red. It's a stark reminder of the brutal life he leads. The memory takes him back 1 year, to the devastating battle at the Tehran front. The aftermath of the conflict was grim, with his knights lying injured across the stone grounds. A panicked soldier's voice cut through the air, screaming for the deputy commander to order a retreat. But Leon stood frozen amidst the chaos, his armor splattered and his expression hard as stone. Another knight tried to call out to him, but his voice trailed off, sensing the dangerous aura around his commander. Ignoring their desperate pleas, Leon made a fateful decision. He declared that they would not fall back. Raising his weapon, power began to hum and crackle from his divine sword, which glowed with an intense blue light. His men shouted in terror, realizing the deputy commander's sacred weapon was going wild. But it was too late. The divine energy spiraled completely out of control, erupting in a massive, destructive wave that swept over the battlefield, leaving only ruin. The memory of the Tehran front is a raw wound. His sacred sword had gone completely berserk, absorbing the divine power from his own knights as it raged. But even after that terrifying display, he had still failed to defeat the enemy. In the aftermath, the whispers began. The holy capital couldn't understand why he disobeyed a direct order to return, concluding that Leon Burke had lost his mind. This crushing recollection sends him stumbling forward in the present. He grips his head, overwhelmed by the phantom pain of his past. Suddenly, Veronica's worried voice cuts through the noise. He hits the ground hard, and she immediately rushes to his side, her face etched with concern as she asks if he's okay. Leon pushes himself up, trying to wave off her help and insisting he's fine. But Veronica can see right through the act. She reaches out, gently placing her hand on his forehead. Her eyes widen slightly. She tells him he's running a high fever, confirming that the loss of his divine power is taking a severe physical toll. Veronica supports Leon's full weight as he suddenly slumps against her. Her voice is laced with worry as she asks how long he's been feeling this way, admitting she'd sensed something amiss throughout their journey. With his eyes half closed from exhaustion, Leon weakly insists he'll be fine after getting some sleep. He notices her flustered state, and a faint, tired smile touches his lips. He thinks that with such a cute reaction, he couldn't resist teasing her. His mind then drifts to a life they never had, imagining them as young knight apprentices. He figures he would have teased her until she cried, then awkwardly offered his hand in apology, realizing all he truly wanted was to see her smile. The pleasant daydream fades, leaving him in the cold present. Leaning against her for support, he decides it's better if she never knows that side of him. As Veronica supports him, she gently asks if he's sleeping. He isn't. After a quiet moment, Leon tells her he's been thinking about it for a while, and she reminds him very much of a cat. Confused by the sudden comparison, Veronica can only wonder what he means. He explains that she can act selfish and have a bad temper, but when she comes closer, he just can't push her away. Seeing her puzzled look, he clarifies that it's a compliment, admitting that he loves cats a lot. He then tells her a story about a stray cat he once fed. He never intended to adopt it, but the stubborn creature just walked into his house one day and decided to stay. Veronica's eyes light up with interest. She asks if he gave the cat a name. When Leon confirms he did, she smiles softly, telling him it was his own fault then. From the moment he gave it a name, it probably considered his house its home. Leon falls silent, taking in her words. Leon falls silent, his expression unreadable. A memory surfaces from long ago, a younger version of himself standing with Veronica. He recalls telling her plainly that he doesn't give names to things that are going to die. The harsh memory fades, returning him to the snowy present. Without another word, he suddenly pulls her into a close embrace. A startled Veronica looks up as he tells her it's cold and they should stay close. But his reasons run far deeper. His thoughts turn grim. He knows this trusting woman will likely never understand the terrible truth of her existence. She is a synchronizer, intrinsically linked to a monstrous behemoth, almost like its child. The unspoken curse is that when the behemoth is finally defeated, all its offspring will perish as well. He realizes her life is destined to be cut short, like a beautiful camellia flower blooming in its prime, completely unaware that it's about to fall. Leon reveals a painful truth from his past, explaining that his biological father finally acknowledged him, but not as a son. His father was only interested in the immense holy power he possessed. Veronica misunderstands, thinking he's referring to his own mother's pain, but Leon clarifies that he's actually talking about her. Stunned by his casual tone, Veronica tells him he doesn't have to dismiss the hurt his family caused. She passionately warns him that trying to cut off such feelings only leads to two dark outcomes. You either become so numb that you lose your humanity, or the suppressed sadness eventually returns to overwhelm you completely. Leon listens quietly before offering a third, much bleaker perspective. He suggests that pain doesn't need to be processed because, given enough time, it simply becomes meaningless. Staring into the distance, he coldly concludes that in the end, everything fades into irrelevance, leaving Veronica speechless. To prove his point, Leon dives into his bleak past. He explains that as a child, he endured unimaginable pain just to get a scrap of affection from his mother. The tragic irony, he says, is that now he can't even remember her face. His life was a constant trial, serving nights at the Vatican from age 7, becoming an apprentice at 13, and finally kneeling before the Pope at 19, truly believing he was a child of God. He looks at Veronica and clarifies that he didn't cut his emotions off. They were already severed long ago. Noticing her own pained expression, he asks why she looks like she's about to cry. She quickly denies it, claiming it's just a habit to hold her feelings inside. She admits she cried easily as a child, even throwing tantrums. Leon's quiet question cuts through the silence. Why did she stop? Veronica turns away, quietly admitting she doesn't know why she stopped. A flood of painful memories provides the real answer, a voice from her past commanding her not to cry, not to act pitiful. As a child, she was taught to swallow her tears. She offers Leon a sad smile, explaining it's because only the crying cicadas get caught by children in the summer. She confesses that it feels like all the tears she suppressed are now piling up inside her, like an ocean threatening to overflow. She imagines herself sinking, fearing the day the dam breaks and all she can do is cry forever. Leon understands her metaphor, adding that being buried by that sorrow would be like holding your breath forever. Hearing this, Veronica realizes he knows exactly what she means. His emotional detachment isn't coldness, it's a desperate act of self-preservation, like cutting off an arm to save the heart. As she touches a shoulder, she feels she is finally seeing the true Leon Burke. Seeing the deep sorrow he can't express, Veronica softly asks an unexpected question. Should she cry for him in his place? Her gentle offer completely shatters his composure. In a flash, Leon surges forward, pulling her into a desperate embrace. He kisses her not with tenderness, but with a raw, consuming hunger that seems to devour the very sympathy she offered. Veronica is stunned by the sudden intensity. She feels an urgent warmth spread through her, a fire that burns away any pretense of duty and leaves her breathless. She weakly protests, telling him not to waste his precious, holy power on her. Ignoring her plea, he only holds her tighter. When he finally pulls back, he rests his head on her shoulder, leaving her completely bewildered. A solemn phrase then echoes in her mind as she recalls a promise, a covenant made with her eyes. Leon held Veronica tightly, his head resting on her shoulder as his thoughts raced. As a man sworn to a holy duty, he questioned how he could allow his mind to linger on a woman this way. For Veronica, this intense moment felt like a premonition, a heavy sign of the complicated path that lay ahead of them. After that, time began to flow again. They left that place behind, embarking on a long journey through the blowing snow and harsh winter cold. Sharing a single horse, they traveled through the vast, quiet wilderness. They crested a ridge, revealing a magnificent city nestled in the valley below. Leon broke the silence, asking if this was the city she had seen in her vision. Her eyes widened with recognition. They had finally arrived at the place from her dreams, the holy city of Kart. Their search for answers, and perhaps her salvation, was about to begin. Inside the grand papal palace, an attendant guides Veronica to a bleak, isolated chamber. Looking around the gloomy space, she hesitantly asks if this is really her room. The shocking truth becomes clear. They've placed her in the basement. The cold, stone walls immediately trigger a horrifying memory. Her mind flashes back to a time she was trapped, her voice screaming for help and begging for forgiveness in a similar prison. Snapping back to the present, she trembles with the awful realization. This isn't a room, it's a cage. Before she can protest, the attendant grips her arm. He tells her with an unsettling smile that meals will be delivered. With a final, dismissive wish for her to rest well, he turns and leaves. The heavy door slams shut with a deafening boom, sealing Veronica alone in the suffocating darkness, a prisoner once again. As Leon moves through the palace, he senses someone following him. He stops and turns, directly asking his shadow why he's tailing him. The man, Oscar Burke, explains that His Holiness ordered him to accompany Leon with the utmost respect. Leon cuts to the chase, correctly guessing that it's just supervision. Oscar doesn't deny it but clarifies he'll only be watching him within the holy grounds and won't join the search. With a slight edge to his voice, he remarks that Leon must be quite favored, since the Pope is keeping him away from dangerous places. Leon gives a non-committal answer, stating he's merely a loyal subject. But as Oscar turns to leave, Leon analyzes the intense emotions radiating from him. He senses a deep resentment, a hatred for those who break their oaths. It's a familiar trait among the Burke children, craving validation, despising the sibling who betrayed their father, and trying to prove their own worth. Leon quietly reflects that humans always need something to dedicate themselves to, be it honor, family, or a dream. Later, Leon enters Veronica's chambers with Oscar following close behind. He quietly approaches her bed, reaching a hand out towards her still figure. But Veronica is far from helpless. Instantly, she springs up, the point of a blade aimed squarely at his neck. Pillow feathers explode into the air from the force of her movement. Her eyes are wide with alarm, but the panic fades when she sees his face. She quickly lowers the weapon and apologizes, admitting she mistook him for an enemy. Oscar is furious, demanding to know why a delegate is carrying a weapon. Unfazed, Leon coolly explains he was the one who gave it to her. When Oscar calls him Sir Burke, Leon just smirks. He asks if it feels strange to be called by that title, adding it's why he avoids it. He then tells Oscar their conversation will take time and dismisses him, leaving the two of them alone in the quiet room. With Oscar gone, the room falls quiet. Veronica finally speaks, noting that Leon took longer than she expected. He explains he had a lot to report after his journey through the wilderness. They sit on her bed, and she quietly admits she didn't think he'd come. Leon asks why not. Veronica explains she thought he might be angry about what happened between them. Growing flustered, she adds that things have felt awkward, especially since he didn't even look back when they parted ways earlier. Instead of answering directly, Leon gently plucks a stray feather from her hair. With a slight smirk, he asks if he ever had a reason to be angry with her. She nervously suggests it's because she peeked behind his mask, knowing that people who wear them fear being exposed. But Leon cuts her off. He firmly states that if a line was crossed and she felt uneasy because of it, the fault was his, not hers. Leon calmly dispels Veronica's fears. He assures her he was never angry. If anything, he was grateful. In a moment of rare vulnerability, he admits that no one in his entire life had ever told him they would cry for him. Veronica is visibly stunned by this raw confession. Gathering herself, she asks why he's keeping her locked away in this room. Leon kneels before her, his expression serious. He explains that this isn't a prison, but a sanctuary, the most secure place the papal palace could offer for her protection. But Veronica points out the obvious flaw in his plan. He's leaving her behind. Leon confirms he must head to Blassen for a mission to undertake alone. Before he goes, however, he murmurs that he has some things to take care of. He then gently pulls her in, closing the distance between them for a final, meaningful gesture that seals the promise of his return. Before he leaves for his mission, Leon murmurs that he has some things he must do. He leans over Veronica, closing the space between them as she sits on the bed. A cold realization washes over her. He isn't here to save her. He's here to fulfill a duty. Grabbing his arm, she confronts him. Is he only keeping her around because her hallucinations are useful? His expression remains unreadable. He admits the thought has crossed his mind, but for now, he's simply following orders from his superiors. He takes her chin in his gloved hand, leaving no room for argument. Then, he leans down and presses a kiss to her lips. For Veronica, the gesture is suffocating. She feels completely wretched, hating that she has to rely on someone else just to survive. These weren't kind reassurances. They were orders disguised as instructions, and she had no power to refuse. As Leon pulls away, a crushing realization hits Veronica. The moment he leaves, she will be completely alone again. This thought is unbearable. He turns his back, ready to walk out of her life, and a desperate panic takes over. She reaches out, her hand tightly gripping his arm to stop him. He looks back, his expression unreadable. With wide, pleading eyes, she begs him not to go, asking if he can stay with her, just for today. The fear of abandonment triggers a flood of memories from the desolate wilderness. She recalls their endless time spent there, surviving only by depending on each other. They huddled together against the biting cold for warmth and a reason to keep going. That shared trauma forged a bond she can't let go of. He was her only anchor in a sea of despair, and the thought of being without him now is terrifying. Leon's gaze lands on the single bed, and he complains about its size. Annoyed, Veronica quickly clarifies she wasn't asking him to share it. She just wanted him to stay nearby for the day. Her voice cracks with desperation as she pleads with him not to leave her all alone like this. His expression softens slightly at her raw fear. He turns back to her, promising that he isn't abandoning her. Hope flickers in Veronica's eyes as she asks if he really means it. He confirms it, placing a reassuring hand on her head. However, this comforting moment is undercut by a dark memory. Leon recalls the Pope asking if he would be willing to sacrifice Veronica at the altar, if necessary. After a tense pause, Leon had agreed to do as he was told. Back in the present, his true intentions remain hidden. He gently touches Veronica's face, promising to take her with him next time. But until then, she has to stay put and wait for his return. Veronica understood Leon's gentle promise was just a beautiful lie. The hard truth was simple. He was leaving her behind today. Thinking on her feet, she grabs a bottle of wine. With a quick, deliberate motion, she accidentally pours the entire bottle over his uniform. A dark red stain blooms across his chest. She offers a fake apology, claiming her hand slipped. With a sweet but triumphant smile, she tells him he can't leave now, not like this. She suggests he might as well stay the night and get cleaned up. Leon just sighs, a smirk playing on his lips. He sees right through her plan, remarking that deep down, she must be angry. Later, after washing up, the atmosphere changes. He looks at her with an intense gaze, quietly asking if he should cry for her in her place. As Leon processed her question, he felt her pushing his buttons. Veronica was deliberately shattering the careful world he had built for himself, peering inside to find the trembling boy he kept hidden. He always knew that one day, something inside him would finally snap under the pressure. While washing the wine from his skin, the weight of his mission became crushing. The unbearable guilt and suffocating sense of betrayal overwhelmed him, threatening to break him entirely. But when he stepped out, he was met with an empty room. His uniform, his boots, everything was gone. He was trapped. At that moment, Leon understood his carefully laid plans were shattered. He had no way to leave. Elsewhere in the residence, Veronica sat perfectly composed, sipping a glass of wine. Her expression made it clear she was now in control. With Leon trapped for the night, Veronica makes an unexpected request. She asks him to teach her how to hold a sword before he leaves. Her reasoning is simple and direct. She doesn't have the luxury of time to wait for her strength to build naturally. Leon considers her words for a moment before retrieving a blade. He presents the sword to her, telling her to take it. She grips the hilt, her serious expression showing a mix of determination and inexperience. He begins the lesson, explaining there's no single correct way to wield a sword. A user must adapt, making movements as fluid as flowing water. Yet, he emphasizes, there are basics everyone must learn, like knowing the front edge from the back. Unfamiliar with weapons, Veronica asks him to point them out. Leon patiently indicates the front edge of the blade, officially starting her first lesson in self-defense. This wasn't how he planned his night, but he was here now, teaching the woman he was supposed to leave behind. Leon points to the blade, explaining that the back edge is the part closest to her hand. Still confused, Veronica admits that just hearing it doesn't make it clear. Realizing she needs a hands-on approach, Leon moves in and stands directly behind her. His presence envelopes her as he places his hands over hers to correct her grip. His voice is low and close as he continues the lesson. He explains the front edge is for attacking, while the back edge is for defense. For distant enemies, she should use the front. For closer ones, the back. But, he adds, if her true enemy is standing right in front of her, she should forget all of that and just aim for the heart. He steps back, telling her to try it. Veronica awkwardly swings the heavy sword through the air. She turns to him with a proud smile, asking if she did well. Leon simply crosses his arms and stares back, his face a perfect mask of unimpressed silence. Despite Leon's unimpressed stare, Veronica found the sword lesson was more enjoyable than she'd expected. As the blade sliced through the air, Leon watched her, his expression serious. He knew this was a moment he would remember for a long time. Sometime later, Veronica wakes up alone. She sits up in bed, looking around the empty room, and wonders how long she'd been asleep. The reality of the situation slowly dawns on her. Leon Burke was gone. A pang of disappointment hits her. He had left without even saying goodbye. Before she can process his departure, a voice cuts through the silence from the doorway. It delivers a cold, simple order. If she refuses to eat, she will be punished. The voice adds that it's better to eat, even if she has to force herself. Veronica is once again a prisoner, and her new instructor is gone. A man appears in the doorway, bringing Veronica a tray of food. He tells her the higher-ups don't care for excuses. She needs to eat. Annoyed, she asks if he's just here to scold her. He explains that by Sir Leon Burke's personal request and the Pope's approval, he has been assigned as her new escort. Veronica is surprised. Even a prisoner needs an escort? Since he'll be guarding her, she decides to properly introduce herself as Veronica Schwarzwald. The guard reciprocates, stating his name is Oscar Burke. Hearing the familiar last name, Veronica's demeanor brightens. An idea pops into her head. Since he's her escort, she asks if he could check her sword stance. She explains she only learned to hold the weapon yesterday and is still clumsy. Oscar stares back in disbelief, asking if Leon was the one who taught a prisoner how to wield a sword. Veronica clarifies that he only showed her the basics of holding it. Oscar scoffs at her request. He points out that she's a woman and, more importantly, not even a follower of the faith. Veronica immediately objects. While she can't deny her gender, she insists she is a believer. Clutching the cross around her neck, she tries to explain that she always attended church with her father. But Oscar isn't interested in her excuses. He cuts her off, coldly stating she holds no true conviction. His voice drops as he asks a chilling question. How could anyone with genuine faith possibly possess eyes like hers? To him, her glowing red eyes are undeniable proof of her corruption. He explains that those with unwavering belief do not succumb to such things. His fists clench as he delivers his final, damning judgment. In his eyes, Veronica is nothing more than a monster who sold her faith to the devil. Oscar continues his verbal assault, coldly informing Veronica that Leon's intervention is the only thing keeping her from the Inquisition's grasp. He insists that if she were a true believer, her God would have granted her a swift end instead of letting her be embraced by darkness. Challenging her, he asks if he's wrong. For a moment, Veronica is quiet, her hand tightening around the sword at her waist. Then, her gaze hardens. She fires back that if his logic holds, then her God clearly has better judgment than the Inquisitors. Her tone is laced with sarcasm as she takes it a step further. She suggests they might as well recruit her God to be an inquisitor for the Pope. This comment is the final straw for Oscar. He erupts in fury, shouting at her not to blaspheme against the Holy Father. Veronica's patience finally shatters. She shoots back that he was the one who started the blasphemy in the first place. Her hands clench into fists as she glares at the self-righteous guard. She can't help but wonder if all holy knights are this infuriating. In that moment, she has a shocking realization. She misses Leon. It was unbelievable that a day would come when Leon Burke actually seemed like the better option. The tense standoff hangs in the air before the scene shifts. A few days later, Veronica sits alone in her room. Leon has been gone for a while, away on a mission to the Blassen Mountains. In his place, Oscar stands as her constant shadow, never leaving the room. The silence between them is heavy and incredibly awkward. Suddenly, a firm knock echoes from the hallway. Oscar turns his head toward the door, granting the person permission to enter while demanding to know their business. A man at the door announces the arrival of two important visitors, His Holiness the Pope and Captain Mecklenburg. Veronica jolts at the second name, her mind racing. She immediately recognizes the title, Albrecht Mecklenburg, Captain of the Holy Knights. He was a hero from childhood stories, a living legend famous for fighting giants and saving princesses. Though the tales were likely exaggerated, his reputation was very real. He became a knight at 15 and remained undefeated past 50. Veronica couldn't understand why someone so powerful would come here. As Oscar opens the door, she quickly rises and bows her head low. A deep, authoritative voice commands her to raise her head. She slowly looks up, and her eyes widen in absolute shock. Standing before her is the legendary captain himself, his stern face framed by familiar burgundy hair. It's Leon's father. Veronica is frozen in disbelief, unable to process the situation. Still reeling from the revelation, Veronica stands stiffly before the legendary Captain Mecklenburg. He is undoubtedly Leon's father. The captain studies her, confirming that she is a synchronizer. Standing just behind him, the Pope remarks that her eyes are different from the usual red eyes he's seen. Mecklenburg asks if Veronica notices anything different about herself compared to other synchronizers. She sees nothing out of the ordinary. He corrects her, pointing out the single most unique thing about her is that she has maintained her sanity. He guesses this is because holy power is sustaining her, not her own life force. The captain then suddenly asks her age. Veronica nervously replies that she's 20. His response is cold and confusing. He states that her mother must have gone into the wilderness while carrying her. Before she can process his words, his staff thuds against the stone floor. He tells the stunned girl that there's something she clearly doesn't know about what kind of people become synchronizers. With Captain Mecklenburg's cryptic words hanging in the air, Veronica meekly offers what little she knows. She says she heard synchronizers were simply people who lacked faith. The Pope gives a knowing look, confirming that was what they used to believe, too. But he explains that over the last 2 years, they have encountered many synchronizers who defy that logic. He tells her of devout priests and a pious old woman whose only joy was prayer, all of whom met the same fate. Faith, he makes clear, had nothing to do with it. This new information shatters Veronica's understanding. The Pope then reveals that all these different people did have one single thing in common. As Veronica stares back with wide, crimson eyes, he asks if she is curious to know what that is. The scene suddenly cuts away to a vast, snowy wilderness. Far from the capital, Leon Burke stands alone against the freezing wind, his gaze fixed on the treacherous mountains ahead. The scene cuts abruptly to a vast, snowy wasteland. Far from the capital, Leon Burke stands against the biting wind, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. A memory suddenly plays in his mind. Veronica, her crimson eyes wide with worry, begging him not to leave. Her plea triggers a deeper, more painful recollection. He sees himself as a small boy, crying out for his mother as she walked away from him forever. The old wound mixes with his current burden. Standing alone amidst the snow and ice, Leon hardens his heart. He tells himself that one woman is a meaningless existence. His thoughts turn to the terrible choice he must make. He is faced with an impossible equation, the sacrifice of a single human being to save 400 million lives. As he contemplates this grim reality, an image of Veronica flashes in his mind, floating peacefully as the price for the world's salvation. Far away, Leon pushes through the harsh, snowy mountains. He coldly reminds himself that Veronica's life would have been lost anyway, so his decision remains unchanged. His boot crushes a lone red flower as he reflects on his grim path. He believes that if you're afraid of one small sacrifice, you'll never be able to move forward. Back in the capital, Veronica asks the Pope about the one thing all assimilated people shared. Instead of answering directly, the Pope starts a story from 20 years ago. He recalls a famous incident when pilgrims found a headless statue of their god in the Grand Temple. The first to witness this were those taken over by the entity Bahamut. The Pope then makes a stunning admission. He was there, too. He explains that after the statue was damaged, all divine prophecies completely stopped, leaving the world in silence. The Pope finishes his tale with a chilling statement. After the statue was found without a head, it was as if their god had truly died. Veronica is shaken, realizing her own mother was on that same pilgrimage while pregnant. Before she can react, Philip von Wittelsbach enters the room. The Pope reveals his cold intentions. He wants to know why the original witnesses survived and plans to pry the answers from their minds. Veronica argues that it's unfeasible, since the assimilated always perish before she can learn anything. His patience gone, the Pope seizes her hand, accusing her of being afraid she might become one of them herself. Suddenly, a firm grip stops him. Leon's father, Mecklenburg, has arrived, grabbing the Pope's arm. A strange blue light erupts from Mecklenburg's hand. The Pope is stunned as he feels his sacred energy being pulled from his body. Veronica can only watch in horror, realizing the impossible was happening. Holy power can be stolen. A brilliant blue light erupts from Mecklenburg's hand as he drains the Pope's sacred energy. Veronica stumbles back in terror, crying out that she doesn't want to become a monster. This holy power, a gift from Leon, was her lifeline. As her eyes flash a dangerous red, she desperately clutches her arm, refusing to let it be taken. Philip rushes forward, urging Mecklenburg to wait and telling the Pope to step back. But Leon's father is completely unfazed by the chaos. He coldly releases his grip, letting Veronica crumple to the floor. As she falls, a dark thought surfaces, like a forgotten prophecy. It speaks of a small sword being taken, a divine weapon that will be used to claim glory. Philip's face pales as he watches the scene unfold. A horrifying realization begins to dawn on him. He might finally understand the true, terrifying nature of Mecklenburg's plan. A forgotten prophecy surfaces in Philip's mind, ominously known as the prayers of the end. As Veronica kneels, the grim words echo in her thoughts. The prophecy spoke of a time when the cries of despair would go unheard by their God. A terrifying realization dawns on her as the final line emerges. It was because their God had lost his face. Her red eyes widen in pure horror, connecting the prophecy to the Pope's story of the headless statue. Meanwhile, the Pope recovers from the shock, his face contorted with rage. He points a trembling finger at Mecklenburg, furiously branding him a heretic in front of everyone. Screaming at the stunned onlookers, he questions why they're just standing there. He demands they seize Leon's father at once and throw him in the dungeon. But before anyone can move, Veronica's body gives out. The immense shock is too much to bear, and she collapses onto the cold floor, completely unconscious. Veronica's eyes flutter open. She's lying on a cold stone slab, her body aching with a desperate thirst. A hazy memory surfaces, Mecklenburg, his hand glowing as he drained every last bit of holy power from her. She questions how she could possibly still be alive without it. Just then, the heavy doors swing open. Mecklenburg enters with Volland at his side, his expression unreadable. He calmly notes that she survived the ordeal. He tells her that losing such power is known to cause hallucinations and demands she tell him what she's been seeing. Frozen with fear and exhaustion, Veronica can't bring herself to answer. Seeing her silence, Mecklenburg gives a slight nod to his subordinate. Volland steps forward, and the sharp sound of a blade being drawn fills the room. Veronica's eyes widen in horror as the shadow of the armed man looms over her, the glint of steel reflecting in her terrified gaze. Volland looms over Veronica, his blade held steady as he orders her to report her hallucinations to the commander. Weak and exhausted, she questions what they really want from her. She knows that telling them about her visions isn't a ticket to freedom. Her thoughts drift to Leon. He had promised her this place was safe, and she finds a spark of defiance. He didn't leave her here to be treated like this, and she's certain he won't stand for it when he returns. Noticing the shift in her expression, Mecklenburg speaks. He calmly asks if she remembers the prophecy she made herself. Veronica is confused, but his words trigger a flash of unsettling images in her mind. A vision of a figure named Bahamut, wielding a divine sword to strip all glory from the land. It vanishes, leaving her completely bewildered. She has no memory of ever saying such a thing. Mecklenburg dismisses her confusion, stating that while only 3 people heard her speak, it was undeniably a prophecy. He explains that her vision mentioned the Sword of the Gods. In the entire world, only 2 such legendary treasures exist, the twin swords known as Hnesis and Apocalypse. He then reveals a critical piece of information. He possesses one of them. The other, he adds, is currently being sought in Blassen, and its return is long overdue. The connection clicks instantly in Veronica's mind. The dangerous mission for a missing sword could only mean Leon. Panic seizes her. She grabs onto Mecklenburg's leg, desperately asking if Leon is safe. He looks down at her, his expression completely unmoved by her fear. Ignoring her plea, he repeats his demand to know what her hallucinations revealed. Realizing begging won't work, Veronica tries a new tactic. She claims her visions were insignificant, insisting they discuss Leon's safety before she says another word about them. A guard interrupts Mecklenburg with a report. The holy knights sent to Bayern have all returned, and Sir Philip is requesting an audience. The commander dismisses him, telling him to make Philip wait. Veronica, still on the floor, is in disbelief. She asks why he's sending no one to help Leon, especially after hearing a prophecy directly from her. She argues Leon isn't the type of person to just vanish without a trace. Mecklenburg gives a cold smirk, telling her she doesn't know his son at all. He explains that while Leon may disappear without notice, he won't be defeated easily. With a chilling certainty, he states that if death ever came for Leon, he would sacrifice everything, even his own comrades, to survive and return. After giving an order to a nearby knight to ensure no one perishes, Mecklenburg turns to leave. Veronica watches him go, her expression filled with horror and despair. She can't believe he would just turn his back on his own son like this. Veronica is left reeling from Mecklenburg's callous departure. She simply can't process how a father could abandon his son so easily. A few days later, Veronica sits alone in a cold, stone cell, a worried prisoner. The heavy door creaks open, and her head shoots up. A surge of desperate hope makes her cry out Leon's name, thinking her savior has finally arrived. But her hope quickly shatters. It's Sir Philip, not Leon, holding a glass of water. He offers the drink without a word, a small kindness in her bleak situation. She quietly accepts it, her hands trembling as she whispers her thanks. After a moment, she looks up at him, her eyes pleading for good news. She asks the one question that has been tormenting her for days. Has Leon returned? With pleading eyes, Veronica asks the one question that has tormented her for days. Has Leon returned? Philip pauses before quietly confirming he hasn't. He explains he only came because Captain Mecklenburg insisted her life should at least be spared. Veronica scoffs at the empty gesture, sarcastically calling the commander considerate. The conversation takes a sharp turn when Philip reveals Mecklenburg has gone to the Blassen Mountains. Veronica's eyes widen. She springs to her feet and grabs his arm, a spark of desperate hope igniting within her. She asks if he went to find Leon, suggesting the man must be worried about the prophecy after all. Philip's expression remains cold as he shatters her newfound hope. He tells her not to fool herself. The captain, he explains, simply evaluated the situation's importance and took action. Mecklenburg is the only one capable of protecting the sword, and that is now his sole priority. Her hope crumbles. The sword is more important than his son? Veronica asks if it's just some symbolic, ceremonial blade. Philip's expression is grim as he corrects her. It's no mere symbol, it's a divine sword. He explains that both Mecklenburg's blade and Leon's sword, Apocalypse, can absorb holy energy on their own. They're so powerful they can even drain the city's protective barrier. Leon has already proven this once before, on the battlefield. After a slight cough, Philip adds that the captain wouldn't summon his entire command for just one person. Veronica is stunned by the cold logic, unable to understand how a man could be so detached from his own son. Philip notes that if he could suspect their family tie, surely other knights have too. The fact there are no rumors means one of two things. Either he's mistaken, or Mecklenburg has treated Leon so coldly that nobody could ever believe they're related. The horrible truth sinks in. Veronica whispers that she understands now. For the first time, she sees Leon not as a savior, but as a man who must have been just as lonely as her. The weight of this new despair is too much, and she collapses. After collapsing from the crushing weight of Leon's lonely reality, Veronica drifts in a strange state of consciousness. As days go by, she notices the monstrous thirst that plagued her has started to fade, becoming manageable. This is impossible. She wonders how this is happening without holy energy and why she is different from the others who succumb to the curse. A chilling fear takes hold. Is she turning into Bahamut? Suddenly, her senses jolt. The stone cell is gone, replaced by a vast, frozen wasteland. She questions if she's trapped in another illusion. The world plunges into darkness, and dozens of glowing red eyes appear, watching her from the shadows. Panicking, Veronica tells herself it's not real. But menacing, shadowy figures begin to materialize around her. She tries to deny their presence, insisting she isn't really there. A powerful gust of wind hits her as she looks up, her eyes widening in terror at the gigantic winged creature now looming directly over her. The gigantic creature's shadow is pierced by the sudden blast of a horn. Veronica understands this isn't just an illusion, it's a memory. In the frozen wasteland, a company of holy knights shouts in alarm. An enemy attack has begun. But the situation is far worse. Another soldier screams that it's Bahamut. The shadowy figures she saw earlier descend upon the soldiers, overwhelming their defenses in moments. The battle is completely one-sided, and the knights fall quickly under the relentless assault. In the midst of the chaos, a commander, Volland, roars for his men to hold the line. He draws a sword, ordering them not to retreat and to fight like the heroes of the kingdom. With his words echoing, the remaining soldiers make a final, desperate charge. Just then, a new figure appears on the field. It's a man with deep red auburn hair, and his crimson eyes survey the brutal scene with cold intensity. It's Leon. Leon stands among the defeated soldiers, his expression unreadable. Before him, the horned creature responsible for the destruction watches from a high perch, its red eyes glowing menacingly. From inside this horrifying memory, Veronica feels a wave of pure terror. His expression unreadable. Before him, the horned creature responsible for the destruction watches from a high perch, its red eyes glowing menacingly. From inside this horrifying memory, Veronica feels a wave of pure terror. It's not for herself, but for him. A single thought consumes her. Leon Burke cannot be allowed to fall here. Back on the frozen battlefield, Leon's resolve hardens. He draws his weapon, and it erupts in a blinding, holy light. Gritting his teeth in fury, he leaps into the air, closing the distance to the massive beast in an instant. He demands to know how it could dare commit such acts. As he soars towards his enemy, roaring a final challenge, questioning where the monster thinks it can run. Leon isn't just defending the line, he's on the attack. The battle is a lost cause. The Holy Knights are completely overwhelmed, and their lines crumble when their commander, Volland, is struck down. Panic erupts among the survivors. Their desperate cries for reinforcements echo across the frozen wasteland as they question what to do now. Standing amidst the chaos, Leon's expression is grim. He understands that without a leader, the entire squad is doomed. But his attention shifts to a figure perched high on the cliffs, the horned beast they've been hunting all this time. Ignoring the panicked shouts to retreat, Leon steps forward. He grips the hilt of his sword and speaks a holy incantation, declaring that God is with them. His weapon bursts into a blinding, divine light. With a furious roar, he leaps into the air, soaring toward his target. He demands to know how the creature could dare to commit such acts, but the beast simply looks down, tauntingly asking where he thinks he can run. Ignoring the chaos, Leon grips his sword. Its holy light erupts as his fellow knights desperately cry out that God is with them. But as Leon charges forward, a voice rings in his head, telling him he already knows the truth. The memory flashes to the devastating aftermath, a field covered with the defeated. The voice cruelly reminds Leon that his choice is what led to this tragedy, just as it had for his comrades before. Overwhelmed by this failure, Leon clenches his fist in silent agony. Watching this memory from afar, Veronica feels a wave of relief. She's just thankful that Leon and his sacred sword are safe. She dismisses the strange prophecy she once heard, believing herself to be nothing more than a simple conduit for a higher power. But as the horned creature turns and walks away into the distance, she can't help but wonder about its destination. A harrowing memory plays out in a frozen wasteland. Overlooked by a horned creature, holy knights are thrown into disarray as their commander, Volland, falls in battle. Veronica witnesses the slaughter, her red eyes wide with shock. The beast simply turns and walks away, its purpose unclear. Snapping back to reality, Veronica lies on a cold stone floor, reaching out as she wakes. She pleads for someone not to go. Standing over her is Oscar Burke, holding a whip. He looks down, flustered, asking what she's doing. But before he can act, the Pope appears behind him, questioning Oscar's actions. He reminds him this was for the sake of enlightenment, then asks why Oscar would hesitate before God. Shaken by the Pope's words, Oscar's hand trembles. He tightens his grip on the whip. With a sharp crack that cuts through the silence, he carries out his duty. A sharp crack cuts through the silence, and Veronica crumples to the stone floor. Her mind flashes back to a painful memory, a voice branding her a monster who had sold her faith to the devil. Back in the desolate room, she lies injured, weakly whispering Leon's name. Standing over her, Oscar Burke's hand tightens and then trembles on the whip, his resolve clearly shaken. Just then, the Pope makes his presence known. Seeing the Holy Father, Oscar is overcome. He drops to his knees, begging the Pope to show mercy. He swears he would obey any other command, even in order to face certain death in battle. He pleads that if this enlightenment continues any further, Veronica will not survive. The Pope simply stands over him, listening to the desperate plea. The Pope looks down at the kneeling knight, his expression filled with contempt. He coldly calls Oscar's display disappointing, his authority absolute. Later, Oscar tends to Veronica as she begins to wake on the hard floor. He leans over her, asking if she's awake and if she recognizes who he is. But Veronica seems lost, her gaze distant as she struggles to speak. She finally manages to say that she saw something. Her mind flashes to a disturbing memory. She sees herself holding a great sword, her face twisted into a menacing grin. The vision shows a grim outcome, with a defeated figure lying on the ground before her. She was the other wielder of the sacred sword. Snapping back to the present, Veronica looks at Oscar with haunted eyes, delivering the shocking news from her vision. Mecklenburg is dead. Oscar stares in shock, processing her words. Veronica explains her terrible realization. The prophecy about the stolen sacred sword was never about Leon, but referred to Sir Mecklenburg's sword. Oscar presses her for certainty, asking if Mecklenburg has truly been taken by that. Her mind flashes with the gruesome memory. She confirms she saw it herself. In her vision, the demonic entity Bahamut stood over Mecklenburg's defeated form before raising the captured sword high into the sky. The weight of her mistake crushes Veronica. She insists it's all her fault. Because she was so certain it couldn't be Leon in danger, the knight captain met his end instead. Grabbing her head in anguish, she turns to Oscar, her voice filled with panic. She pleads with him, saying they must quickly send people to find Leon and ensure his safety. Oscar attempts to calm the frantic Veronica, urging her to take a deep breath. But her thoughts are consumed by one person, and she begins to protest, her voice strained with worry for Leon. Interrupting her panic, Oscar delivers shocking news. Sir Burke has returned. Veronica looks at him in disbelief, asking if it's true. Oscar confirms it, explaining that she was unconscious for 3 days and Leon had returned with the expedition team during that time. Relief washes over her, and she assumes he must have come to see her. She laments having missed him, wishing she had woken up sooner. But Oscar's next words crush her hopes. He clarifies that Leon never came to visit her at all. The brief joy on Veronica's face vanishes, replaced by confusion and hurt. Clutching her chest, she can only ask why he would stay away, the knight's safe return now feeling like a painful rejection. Elsewhere, Philip von Wittelsbach confronts Leon with a sharp accusation. He asks if Leon feels good about deceiving him by bringing Veronica, the assimilator, to the capital. Leon questions when he ever deceived him, but Philip cuts him off, telling him to drop the innocent act. He argues that Veronica was meant to be a sacrifice for the Pope, and Leon should have eliminated her the moment he found her in Bayern. Philip insists that would have been a mercy. Leon remains firm, countering that if he had done that, a far greater threat hiding in the shadows would have gone unnoticed. Unconvinced, Philip scoffs at Leon's theory of a first Bahamut, a creature he refuses to believe exists. Their tense argument is interrupted when Volland arrives to summon Philip for an urgent meeting with His Holiness. After Philip leaves, Volland delivers a final message to Leon. Lady Schwarzwald is awake and wants to see him. Leon's father, Mecklenburg, stands in quiet contemplation. He comes to a chilling realization. Veronica isn't just seeing a monster, she has become one herself. He quietly speaks her family name, Schwarzwald, which catches Volland by surprise. Mecklenburg pieces things together in his mind. He reasons that for Veronica to have survived this long, someone must have granted her divine power. The answer then flashes before his eyes, a vision of his own son, Leon, giving Veronica the kiss that saved her life. This revelation seems to change something within him. Volland observes his superior's expression has suddenly become much more human. But Mecklenburg's next words are unexpectedly cold. He declares that since she is an assimilator, he feels no need to meet her in person. His strange dismissal leaves Volland completely baffled, wondering what this is all about. Volland delivers the news that Lady Schwarzwald is awake and immediately asks to see Leon. He then brings up another matter, mentioning that while Captain Mecklenburg hasn't returned from Blassen, he is confident he will. There's more he wants to say, but Volland stops himself, admitting that His Holiness has forbidden him from speaking on the subject. Leon correctly guesses the secret is related to his father. But before Volland can continue, Leon cuts him off with a sharp reminder. Stating his name is Oscar Burke, a dismissed commoner mercenary no longer part of the Order. He sternly warns Volland not to reveal confidential information to an outsider. Surprised by this cold rejection, Volland changes the subject. He asks if Leon is really not going to see Veronica, despite her request. Leon remains silent, his back turned to Volland as he gazes out over the sprawling city, leaving the question unanswered. Volland presses for an answer, asking Leon if he's really not going to see Veronica. Leon remains silent, his back turned, a cold gesture that makes Volland's heart clench. Internally, Leon is conflicted. He feels a strange and absurd sense of obsession, thinking back to when he abandoned her, saying he was done playing. Yet he also remembers the moment he saved her life with a kiss. He scoffs at himself, comparing his feelings to a child who gets angry when someone else touches their toy. Finally, he turns around with a faint, cynical smile. He confirms she looked for him as soon as she woke up. Volland agrees, but Leon dismisses it, suggesting her throat was probably just parched. With a wave of his hand, he tells Volland to continue caring for her as always. As Leon walks away from a stunned Volland, he tells himself that cutting ties with her wasn't difficult at all. As Leon walks away, he tries to justify his coldness. He tells himself that emotionally cutting someone off is something he's done his whole life, a final act that always brings a strange sense of peace. He believes this decision is necessary, both for his own good and for hers. The scene shifts to Veronica's room, where Volland approaches her bed with a heavy heart. Overwhelmed by guilt, he kneels and offers a sincere apology. A confused Veronica asks what he means. With a pained expression, Volland confesses that the terrible injuries on her back are his fault, admitting he was the one who hurt her while she was unconscious. Veronica looks at him, surprisingly calm. She asks if it was his own choice. When he can't answer, she questions why he would follow an order he disagreed with. The memory flashes in his mind, Volland kneeling before the Pope. The order clearly came from the highest authority, a command he felt powerless to refuse, believing he couldn't possibly understand the Pope's profound and cruel intentions. As Volland kneels, his mind is a storm of conflict. He admits to himself that he can't possibly understand the Pope's motives, nor can he tell which path is the right one to take. Veronica watches him, a sudden realization dawning on her. She grips the sheets, thinking about the steadfast belief that both Volland and Leon possess, a conviction so strong it's almost unbelievable. Unlike them, she has always been one to doubt everything, making her fearful of absolute certainty. She knows that powerful belief can burn away everything in its path, from love and conscience to guilt. In her experience, people who are completely convinced of their own righteousness can commit horrible acts without hesitation. Her expression hardens with resolve. She looks at Volland and declares she has something to say to Leon. If an apology is truly needed, he should bring Leon to her. But Volland cuts her off. Declaring that's enough, he stands and walks out, leaving Veronica alone. Outside, a palace guard spots a dark, cloaked figure, and his posture stiffens. He recognizes the man as the executioner and can't help but wonder if a prisoner is scheduled for a grim fate. The figure offers no real answer, simply alluding to something happening the next morning before moving on. Meanwhile, Veronica remains confined, her determination hardening. She reflects on her deep-seated need to meet Leon again. It wasn't just about seeing him. She had a debt to repay. She wanted to stand before him as an equal and return the kindness he once showed her. A memory of that kindness surfaces, reminding her why she believed she could one day speak to him with confidence. She had so many things she wanted to say, but as she pictures Leon Burke now, a powerful figure standing before a grand, holy structure, a sudden and chilling thought strikes her, jolting her from the memory with a start. The sound of steady footsteps pulls Veronica from her dark thoughts. She looks up to see Leon's younger brother, Oscar Burke, standing in her cell. He carries a heavy expression and urges her to get up. Wasting no time, Veronica stands and immediately asks where Leon is. Oscar avoids her gaze, his own eyes filled with a grim reluctance, informing her that Leon will not be coming. Confused, Veronica watches as he shoves a bundle of clothes into her hands. He tells her to change quickly, keep her head down to hide her eyes, and let him do all the talking. This isn't an escape, it's something else entirely. She cuts him off, demanding to know what's going on. Oscar hesitates, the weight of his words heavy on his shoulders. He finally reveals the horrifying truth. Philip Wittelsbach, the deputy commander, has given the order. Veronica has been sentenced to death. Her world shatters as the chilling image of a hangman's noose fills her mind. A knight in full armor leads a cloaked Veronica through the empty palace grounds under the cover of night. Suddenly stopping, she grabs his arm, her expression intense. She needs to understand why he is helping her. He seems like a man who values faith and orders above all else, making this act of defiance confusing. The knight confirms her assessment is correct. He is a man of duty. However, he clarifies he is simply following Commander Mecklenburg's commands. Before leaving for his expedition, Leon's father gave him a final, direct order to ensure Veronica's life was protected. The revelation stuns her. She wonders if this is an act of strong belief in a commander, or if this knight is making a choice all on his own. In the end, the reason doesn't matter. Whatever motivated him, he was here to help. Looking up at her mysterious escort, Veronica offers him a quiet, genuine thank you. With sincere gratitude, Veronica tells the knight that he saved her life. She holds out a small, sheathed dagger, insisting he take it back. She quietly asks if returning her weapon is also part of his orders. The knight gently refuses, telling her to keep it for now. He explains that an acquaintance will look after her for a few days, but since the future is uncertain, it's better to be armed. He then promises to say a prayer in her defense, hoping God won't hold him guilty for letting a prisoner go free. Moved by his words, Veronica clutches the dagger and calls him the most divine knight she has ever met. She looks up with a hopeful smile, asking if a prayer from her would be enough to protect him in return. Their journey soon ends at a quiet building where a woman opens the door. Her eyes widen in surprise as she mistakes the knight for Oscar. The woman at the door greets the knight warmly, calling him Sir Oscar. She gently chides him for being so busy and not even knocking. Soon after, Veronica is settled inside the cozy home with the woman, Hannah, and her husband, Emmett. Hannah explains that since the holy nights are always occupied, they were surprised to be asked to host a guest. Veronica takes in the peaceful scene, realizing that the couple's kindness isn't based on pity. It's a genuine warmth that feels completely unreal to her. After introductions are made, Hannah asks how Veronica knows Sir Burke, clarifying if she means Oscar. Veronica explains that the knight is their lifesaver. She tells them the story of how he rescued Emmett when he was trapped beneath a carriage after a terrible accident. The couple listens, their connection to the mysterious knight now clear. Hannah smiles warmly, overjoyed to finally repay a debt to such a great person. She explains that even though Oscar is from a common background, he's the only one she knows who wears the white lion's armor. Her husband agrees, wishing their own child would grow up to be just like him. Hearing this, Veronica quietly mentions her belief that there's another knight from a similar background. Emmett then brings up a different name, asking if she's heard that Leon Burke has returned. Hannah's shocked, saying she never expected him back after the terrible accident. When Veronica asks for details, Hannah reveals the dark rumor she heard from the Vatican. On the front lines, Leon Burke supposedly went mad, turned on his own comrades, and then fled in fear. The church kept it quiet because he was a public hero. As this story sinks in, Veronica's eyes glow a deep red. She recalls sensing a familiar loneliness in him, yet he always appeared undeniably strong. The man Hannah described doesn't match the one she met. The rumor of a cowardly traitor just doesn't match the man Veronica remembers. Her mind flashes back to a scene of utter destruction. She recalls his deep, solitary presence. He wore his duty like a heavy mask, but she sensed the profound loneliness underneath. It was his strength in the face of her own ruin that kept her from completely falling apart. She resolves then and there that she must stay by his side. Pulled from her memories, Veronica sits at the table, trying to figure out her next move. How could she possibly find him? As if reading her mind, Hannah advises her to stay indoors for her own safety. Then, she casually reveals a shocking piece of information. Leon Burke is staying at the inn just around the corner. As the words hang in the air, Leon himself walks down a nearby street, completely oblivious that the girl he saved is now so close. Inside a grand hall, Philip is absolutely furious. He can't believe they let a condemned criminal slip right past them, especially since he was fooled into thinking she was just a nun. He orders a nearby sentry to confirm the identity of a captured, hooded figure, but it's no use. It's not her. Leon simply smirks, reminding Philip that he already told him they had the wrong person. This response pushes Philip over the edge. He accuses his vice captain of having a bad habit of being deceived. Grabbing Leon by the uniform, Philip demands to know who else could have possibly smuggled the girl out of the city. He warns Leon that he won't let this slide if it turns out to be another one of his mistakes. Before anything else, he'd have to hand over his sacred sword. Later, Leon walks the dark streets alone, running a hand through his hair in frustration. There's no news, which means she's still out there somewhere. Leon walks the empty streets, trying to force himself to move on. He tells himself that as long as Veronica is safe, that's all that should matter. It shouldn't bother him whose arms she turns to for salvation. He even tries to believe she was an annoying woman from the very beginning and that this separation is for the best. But it's a lie, and he knows it. Just as he's about to give in to his frustration, his steps come to a halt. Huddled in a dark alley, he finds the very person he was looking for. Veronica's head snaps up, her glowing red eyes widening in disbelief as she starts to say his name. Before the word can escape her lips, Leon closes the distance in an instant, sweeping her into a tight, desperate embrace. Overwhelmed by the reunion, Veronica clings to him, admitting that she missed him too. But even in her relief, a hint of confusion clouds her mind as she tries to process what is happening. As Leon holds Veronica, she murmurs that his tight grip hurts. His response is cold. He says it's good because it means her senses are still intact. He's clearly frustrated, telling her he didn't realize she was so out of her mind. Pulling back, Veronica challenges him, asking why he even bothered coming back for her when she ran away on her own. Leon dismisses her concern, stating he checked the area, but she just calls him a nuisance. His patience snaps. Leaning in, Leon taunts her, asking if she's thirsty. He cruelly suggests she could just go find one of the other knights to satisfy her urges. Stunned by his bitterness, Veronica explains she sought him out to tell him something important. She thinks that if she gives him the information he wants, he might be kind to her again. Her mind flashes back to a gentler moment between them, the day he delivered the news of her father's death. It was a moment whose meaning she now regrets not understanding sooner. Stunned by his harsh words, Veronica's mind retreats to a past memory. She recalls the day he delivered the devastating news about her father, a moment of kindness whose meaning she regrets not understanding sooner. Returning to the present, she tries to explain she only wanted to help him. Leon cuts through her explanation with a cold question, demanding to know if she personally witnessed his father, Mecklenburg, meet his end, and telling her to explain everything that happened after he left. Forced to answer, Veronica confirms the horrible truth. Because of her prophecy, Mecklenburg went to the Alpen Mountains and never came back. She adds that she also asked the knights to save Leon's life. But her confession earns no sympathy. Leon sits down, his expression dismissive. He tells her she's been a bother and asks if she thinks she's someone important, making it painfully clear she is neither a comrade nor an ally, questioning what right she has to interfere in his life. Utterly defeated, Veronica can only whisper an apology for overstepping. Veronica stammers, trying to explain that Oscar helped her, but Leon cuts her off with a sharp question. He asks why she thinks security was so tight where she was held. He argues that her escape was far too easy, and it just doesn't add up. Sitting down, his expression turns cold as he delivers a devastating blow. He was the one who sold her to the Pope. The words hang in the air. Veronica whispers that it must be a lie, but her denial is useless. Leon points out that if it were a lie, he wouldn't have left her there for 2 whole days. Utterly broken, she remembers all his promises, how he told her to wait, that he wanted her to like him. He admits it was all an act. Gaining her affection, he explains, just made her easier to control. After all the trouble he went through to win her over, he felt he might as well be kind for another day. He ends with one final, crushing question. Did she really think they were in love? Leon's expression remains cold as he delivers the final, crushing blow. He asks if she actually believed they were in love. In the grand throne room, Leon kneels before the Pope and Princess Joanna. He has just delivered a grave report, and the Pope questions if he truly understands the weight of his own words. An official nearby scoffs at the news, finding it impossible that Mecklenburg is gone. He insists the Vatican would never remain silent if the captain of the Holy Knights had fallen. The Pope considers this, noting that their only proof is a vision from the synchronizer. Leon continues his urgent warning. He reports that monstrous creatures now mimic humans and wield their weapons. He believes that with the stolen divine sword, they could easily tear down the walls of the holy city itself. The Pope is shaken by the thought. Leon is resolute, stating they must use the synchronizer's vision to prepare for the invasion. He makes his first request, that the Pope protect her from the Vatican's reach. As the Pope begins to question this so-called seer, Joanna calls out Leon's name. Princess Joanna cuts in, addressing the Pope. She remarks that Leon is the only one speaking out for their kingdom, while everyone else remains indifferent. She then questions the logic of identifying the synchronizer by her eyes alone. After all, she points out, Sir Leon has red eyes as well, yet no one considers him anything but ordinary. Leon speaks firmly, vouching for Veronica. Having been by her side, he can personally attest that she is no normal human. Joanna finds this amusing, laughing that his phrasing sounds a bit too close. His mind drifts to a painful past. He learned long ago not to attach meaning to those around him. Every time he treasured something, it was shattered and lost. A memory of a woman lying among red flowers reinforces this cold lesson. Joanna's voice pulls him back to the present. He looks up and clarifies his statement with chilling pragmatism.
It is not that she is close to him.
He simply keeps her near because she is useful. In the throne room, Leon coldly states that to him, Veronica is a woman without the slightest meaning. Far away, as if his words reached across the distance, she gasps in her sleep. Her mind is plunged into a surreal, colorless dreamscape. She wanders a desolate landscape, questioning what's happening, just as the shadowy forms of the Bahamut army appear before her. Her vision shatters. The world erupts into a chaotic nightmare of distorted red and black. Overwhelmed, she clutches her head, bombarded with fragmented scenes of destruction from countless different viewpoints. A horrifying realization hits her. She is seeing through the eyes of every monster at once. Their visions are all connected, streaming from a single source. This entity has been watching every corner of the world, its awareness so all-encompassing that it's almost like a god itself. A massive, terrifying red eye fills her vision, confirming her worst fears. As if his cruel words traveled across the distance, Leon's cold dismissal pierces Veronica's sleep. She gasps, plunging into a chaotic nightmare, wandering through the ruins of a city. A monstrous voice echoes around her, questioning what it was searching for in a place called Asseldorf. Veronica, confused but earnest, even offers to help it look. But then, her vision shatters into a dizzying storm of red and black. Her head throbs, bombarded with fragmented scenes of destruction from countless viewpoints at once. A horrifying realization dawns. She's seeing through the eyes of every Bahamut monster. Their visions are all connected to a single, godlike entity. It reveals its quest for the head of God, speaking of a place where the vanished deity hides. Surrounded by an army of glowing red eyes, the overwhelming horror becomes too much. Veronica jerks awake in her bed, gasping for air and clutching her head. Veronica jolts awake, her head pounding from the nightmarish vision. She tries to dismiss it, insisting that a Bahamut couldn't possibly speak. Determined not to let the horror consume her, she gets out of bed and moves to her desk as sunlight streams through the window. The terrifying images linger in her mind: deserts, snowfields, and the ruined city of Asseldorf. She steels her resolve, fearing that if she falters, she will end up abandoned in the cold once more. She cannot collapse here. No matter what happens, she must find the strength to stand up again. Suddenly, the door swings open, and Leon enters the room. A bright, genuine smile instantly lights up Veronica's face as she greets him. He walks towards her, and she makes an internal promise. She will follow this man without question, even if the path he leads her down ends in total destruction. Leon sits across from Veronica, listening intently as she describes her latest vision. He asks if this nightmare felt different from the others. She confirms it did. While she's seen behemoths before, this was the first time she saw the world through a new monster's eyes, and it was definitely searching for something. Suddenly, Leon changes the subject. He asks if she still remembers how to handle a sword. Confused, Veronica says she does. He nods, telling her to get ready because they have an audience with the Emperor soon. The news hits her like a physical blow. She panics, her eyes glowing red with fear and suspicion. She accuses him of trying to sell her off to the imperial family. Unfazed, Leon looks at her coolly. He asks if she really doesn't want to stay by his side forever. The question catches her completely off guard. After a moment of shock, she quietly insists that she wants to stay. Then, looking him straight in the eyes, she makes her position clear. No, she has no intention of leaving. Veronica clarifies her position with unnerving intensity. She wants Leon to care for her so deeply that he completely loses himself in the process. She then delivers a chilling promise. If he ever decides to leave her behind, she won't be far behind him, and he'll finally see the desolate, snowy landscape from her nightmares with his own eyes. Leon considers her words, thinking that true freedom is simply the hope of surviving this whole mess. But Veronica knows the grim reality of their mission. Past battles have proven that when a behemoth falls, its human synchronizer perishes with it. Killing the first behemoth means her own end is guaranteed. Unaware of her fatalistic thoughts, Leon says he's looking forward to the audience. She quietly pleads with him not to sell her to anyone strange. His response is blunt and cold. If she doesn't want to be sold, she can always go back to the Vatican. The harsh ultimatum leaves her completely stunned. That night, peace is a luxury neither of them can afford. Leon thrashes in his sleep, haunted by memories of his father. In her own bed, Veronica is trapped in a similar torment, murmuring the names of her family before crying out in fear. Her distress seems to pull Leon from his own nightmare. He rises and walks to her side, his expression softening as he looks down at her. He gently brushes her hair back, asking softly if it's another bad dream. Staring up at him, Veronica is struck by his contradictory nature. He's an unpredictable man, often cruel, yet sometimes surprisingly gentle. Leon breaks the silence, remarking that he thought her visions had stopped. With a slight smirk, he asks if she wants a hug. Her heart pounds in her chest. Instead of answering, she suddenly grabs him and pulls him into a tight embrace. Completely caught off guard, Leon can only ask why she's holding on to him. After everything, he was sure she must hate him. Still in his arms, Veronica clarifies that she doesn't hate him, but she doesn't exactly like him either. She then reveals her recent nightmare. Wasn't a bad dream at all. It was a dream of home, not a place, but a person. Leon recalls she often cries out for her father and Benjamin in her sleep. With a smirk, he asks if Benjamin was her lover. Veronica remembers Benjamin as just a kind friend who secretly shared food with her. But Leon shatters the sweet memory with his cynical view of the world. He tells her that when men are especially nice to women, it's never just out of goodness. Confused, she asks what he means. Leaning in close, his hand tilting her face up, he spells it out for her. That kind of attention from a man usually means he wants something far more intimate. His cold lesson hangs in the air, leaving her speechless under his intense gaze. Veronica looks up at Leon, challenging his cynical view. She points out that he was also kind to her, but it clearly didn't mean he wanted a future together. Their situation, she insists, was the exception. Searching for a shred of honesty, she asks him if he was ever sincere with her. Was the story he told her about his mother actually true? Leon's answer is swift and brutal. He admits he made it all up just to make her like him more, coldly observing that people are naturally drawn to goodness. Leaning in, he whispers that she has a desperate need for affection. Then he twists the knife. He reminds her that her father and her friend are gone forever. With no one left to comfort her, he pulls her down into his arms. His final words are a chilling command. Since she's going to have nightmares no matter what, she might as well dream of him instead. Following his brutal confession, Leon pulls Veronica into his arms. He whispers a chilling command. If she must have nightmares, she should dream of him instead. Dazed by his arrogance, Veronica breathes out that he is rotten all the way through. Leon just smirks, casually admitting it took her long enough to realize it. He had always been this way, a man of cruel gentleness. Yet, in Veronica's world of ruin and ash, he was the only ember left. She understood that holding on to him would surely burn her, but it was a risk she felt compelled to take, gripping him tighter. A few days pass, and the atmosphere is awkward. Veronica finds herself dressed in surprisingly elaborate clothes beside Leon. She asks if their formal attire is truly necessary. Leon states plainly that they have an audience with the Emperor, so they must mind their manners. Taking in their expensive new gear, Veronica silently concludes that a knight's salary must be quite decent. Walking through the city, Veronica points out how easily Leon buys such expensive clothes. He coolly replies that life is comfortable enough, as long as you avoid getting married. Before she can dwell on that, Veronica's eyes light up at the sight of a weapon shop, and she eagerly asks if they can pop in for a quick look. Leon reluctantly agrees. As she runs inside, he finds himself lost in thought. He remembers leaving earlier, how she wrapped herself in a blanket and told him to come back safely. It dawns on him that no matter how cruelly he behaves, she's always there waiting for him. The realization is unsettling. If she weren't there, then what would that mean for him? He clenches his fist, understanding that in her destroyed world, he is the one constant. Just then, Veronica returns. She holds out a brand new knight's helmet as a gift. Veronica presents Leon with a brand new knight's helmet. She explains that even though she used his money, the thought was hers, so there's no need for thanks. Leon accepts the gift, feeling an unpleasant jolt in his chest. She just wanted to keep him safe, telling him it was far too dangerous to walk around with his head uncovered. As the setting sun casts a warm glow over the street, Veronica seems to be dyed entirely red. Leon stares, realizing this is a special moment, one that will be etched into his memory forever. He takes the helmet and gently places it on her head. His voice is serious as he commands her never to take it off, no matter what. After a moment of surprise, she smiles and says they should get going. But Leon knows he'll never forget the look on her face. It was as if their two melancholy souls recognized the loneliness in each other. As they continue, Veronica looks at Leon, seeing him clearly. She recognizes his deep solitude, a loneliness she understands all too well. It occurs to her that a man raised without affection is fragile. He could easily be shattered by the slightest kindness. Shaking off the thought, she flashes a bright smile and calls for him to hurry up, worried they might be late. They soon arrive at a massive hall that appears to be made of solid gold. Veronica is stunned, having never seen so much gold in one place. She whispers that it must have cost a fortune. With a perfectly straight face, Leon tells her a ridiculous story about thieves chipping off pieces every night, forcing the owners to replace it with new gold annually. Veronica looks horrified. Seeing she completely bought it, Leon smirks. He asks if she really believed him, explaining it's just plating. The sheer weight of real gold would be impossible. As they enter, a loud voice announces the arrival of Her Highness, Princess Joanna. Veronica flinches, but Leon is faster. He quickly presses her head down, ordering her to bow and not even think about meeting the princess's eyes. The sound of heels clicking on the marble floor grows louder as the princess approaches them. She greets Leon warmly and tells Veronica to raise her head. She then questions why Leon is being so distant, reminding him that she'd asked him to drop the formalities. With a soft smile, she admits that she was already missing him. Veronica watches the exchange, completely stunned. A chilling thought echoes her own earlier realization. A man raised without affection is incredibly fragile. He could easily be shattered by such open kindness. Before she can process it all, Leon takes the princess's gloved hand and brings it to his lips. Veronica can only stare, her eyes wide, at the sudden intimacy between the renegade knight and the royal princess. In a quiet, candlelit room, Philip von Wittelsbach sits alone, his gaze fixed on a vase of red camellias. He once thought a flower blooming in winter must symbolize a powerful love, one that burns with longing. His perspective, however, has since shifted. He now sees the flower as fragile and weak. He concludes that the act of waiting holds no real power on its own. To him, the beautiful crimson petals exist only to decorate the lush, golden center, making it shine even brighter. His thoughts are interrupted. Turning from the window, he informs Veronica that His Majesty has commanded her presence. She looks up from her position on the floor, her eyes wide with surprise at the royal summons. Philip calmly states that he will be her escort. Meanwhile, Princess Joanna holds up a stunning sapphire necklace, admiring its sparkle. She explains with a smile that it was a birthday gift from her second brother, a cherished treasure she hasn't even had a chance to wear yet. Princess Joanna wonders if her talk about jewelry is boring for a knight like him. Leon smoothly assures her it isn't, adding that the sapphire necklace is a perfect match for her blue eyes. Delighted by the compliment, Joanna holds out the sparkling treasure and asks him to put it on for her. Leon steps behind her, his hands gently fastening the clasp at her neck. After he confirms it suits her even better than he imagined, Joanna's playful mood sharpens. She declares her desire to possess all beautiful things and questions why he treats her with such reverence. Leon simply calls it respect. The princess smiles, agreeing that mutual respect is vital. He tries to deflect by mentioning his solemn vows as a holy knight, but she cuts through the pretense. She knows the truth, stating that his actions tell a different story. He broke a sacred commandment, and he did it to save Veronica. Princess Joanna closes the distance between them, her voice low and suggestive. She reminds Leon that infusing holy power requires a very intimate exchange, pointedly asking what a man and woman could have done alone in the wilderness. She then cuts to the heart of the matter, accusing him of harboring feelings for Veronica. Joanna claims she saw the fond look he gave the girl earlier. Leon immediately denies it, telling the princess she is gravely mistaken. He grabs her arms, insisting that he only keeps Veronica by his side out of sheer necessity. He argues that if he truly had feelings for her, he would never have presented her to the royal family. A relieved smile spreads across Joanna's face. Since he has no feelings for Veronica, she says he won't be angry to hear the location for the audience has been changed. She shoves him back, and he stumbles. With a sly look, the princess tells him to come with her, explaining it will be faster for him to see what she means with his own eyes. Leon's expression hardens, sensing a trap. Leon follows the princess, his suspicion growing with every step. They arrive at a balcony overlooking a vast arena where a crowd has already gathered. He freezes, his gaze locked on the lone figure standing in the center. He starts to question Joanna, but she cuts him off, explaining that the person facing Veronica is one of her most treasured knights, a master of sword energy. With a sly smile, she reveals that the king and the royal family are pretending not to see the truth of the situation. His Majesty personally ordered this trial to verify if Veronica is a genuine gift from God. Down below, Veronica looks terrified as the elite knight draws his weapon. Joanna taunts Leon, suggesting that if Veronica is truly repentant, a miracle might just happen. As she speaks, Leon's hand clenches into a tight fist. He turns to the princess, his voice low as he demands to know what she truly wants. Feigning innocence, Joanna simply asks why he assumes she is behind any of this. From his throne, the Pope addresses the court. He declares Veronica a heretic who survived a monstrous power, now seeing the world through its eyes. To discern God's will, they will use an ancient tradition, a sacred duel. The terms are simple. If Veronica can defeat a knight of the Imperial Guard, the kingdom will acknowledge her supposed gift. As the crowd cheers, Veronica stands frozen in the center of the arena. Watching the scene unfold from the balcony, Princess Joanna sees her opportunity. She turns to Leon with a sly smile, making him an offer he can't ignore. She tells him that if he wants to save Veronica, all he has to do is swear his complete loyalty to her. In exchange, she will lend him her aid. Leon's expression darkens, his fist clenching tightly by his side. He's caught in her trap. Down below, the knight unsheathes his massive blade, and the deadly trial is about to begin. Veronica stands in the arena, utterly confused. She believed this was a simple demonstration for the Emperor, not a public trial for her life. Her eyes dart around until they lock onto a balcony above. She sees Leon standing there, his face grim, right next to a smiling Princess Joanna. A cold realization begins to dawn on her. Clutching the sword, she quietly questions if this is all part of some hidden plan. Suddenly, a horn sounds, signaling the start of the duel. Her opponent doesn't hesitate, rushing forward and bringing his massive sword down. Veronica barely gets her own blade up in time, the force of the blow sending her stumbling backward. As she fights to regain her balance, her mind races, desperately searching for a reason for all this. She finally lands on the one painful truth. This is all happening simply because she caught the attention of Leon Burke. The sheer force of the blow sends Veronica stumbling backward, her sword barely holding off her opponent. She crashes to the arena floor, completely overpowered. Watching from the balcony, Philip turns to Leon, stating the obvious. If this continues, she won't survive. Princess Joanna seizes the moment, reminding Leon that she holds sway over these knights and their loyalties. Veronica lets out a pained grunt, struggling to rise. The sight is too much for Leon. His knuckles turn white as he grips the stone railing. He finally relents, announcing that he will swear the oath she demanded. All he asks is that she stops the duel. A smirk plays on Joanna's lips as she asks if he's being sincere. Before he can respond, she reaches out, grabbing his chin and forcing him to meet her gaze. She whispers that if Veronica falls, his sincerity will be completely meaningless. Leon's eyes widen in shock. He's been perfectly and utterly trapped. The situation in the arena escalates without warning. One moment, Veronica is on the verge of defeat. The next, her opponent lies motionless on the ground, his weapon discarded beside him. Veronica stands over the fallen knight, her body and sword covered in crimson stains. Her mind struggles to catch up with her actions. The knight is gone. She looks down, wondering if she is truly responsible for this. Did she just take a life? Her eyes, wide with shock, reflect the final, swift movement of her blade. It wasn't a conscious decision. Some raw, uncontrollable power took over. She stares at her own hands, then back at the still figure on the sand. This wasn't some beast she had slain in the past. It was a person. The realization hits her like a physical blow. As she tries to process the horror of what she's done, a voice suddenly cuts through the stunned silence of the crowd, calling out to her. Leon rushes into the arena, grabbing a stunned Veronica. Her mind is a blank, and she can only manage to stammer his name. Furious and desperate, Leon demands to know if she has any idea what she's just done. Still in shock, Veronica can't process his words. He spells it out for her. The man lying motionless on the sand was Theodore, Princess Joanna's personal guard and a knight trusted by the Emperor himself. The weight of his statement finally crashes down on her. Veronica is frozen under a single spotlight, the silent, horrified stares of the crowd pressing in. She remembers a time she desperately wished for everyone to look at her, but this twisted fulfillment of her dream is a nightmare. From the stands, Philip calmly clarifies the situation for a companion. He explains that this is the power of Bahamut he once spoke of. It's a terrifying force that can overwhelm a target from within, an attack that even the most skilled knights are powerless to defend against. High in the royal box, Philip calmly addresses Princess Joanna and the Pope. He explains that what they just witnessed is the terrifying power of Bahamut. It's an internal attack, an unstoppable force that even the most skilled knights cannot defend against. He stresses that they must act quickly, or the entire holy city will be in grave danger. Princess Joanna agrees, her expression serious. She declares that the age of prophecy has ended, making old promises of safety completely useless. They were all watching for a sign from above, and it seems this is it. Her logic convinces the Pope. He announces his decision to the court. He will honor the promise to accept the synchronizer. From this moment forward, Veronica will be under the official protection of the imperial family. He justifies this as respecting God's will, not defying the Vatican. Down below, the declaration is lost on Veronica. Trapped in her own nightmare, she can only wonder what the point of surviving is when it leads to such destruction. As Leon leads her away, Veronica suddenly stops, gasping for air. The weight of her actions triggers a severe panic attack. Leon, recognizing the signs from his experience with soldiers, acts quickly. He grabs her shoulders, forcing her to face him. He tells her to look him in the eyes and take slow, steady breaths. His calm command helps ground her, and her frantic heartbeat begins to slow down. Just then, Princess Joanna interrupts them, noting that Veronica doesn't look well. With a seemingly kind smile, she offers Veronica a room in her palace to rest. She invites her to an upcoming banquet, eager to hear about the world outside the capital. But Leon steps in front of Veronica, shielding her from the princess. He politely tells Joanna that if she needs company, he will attend in Veronica's place. He then firmly requests that she allow the synchronizer to leave. Princess Joanna lowers her fan, a hint of disappointment in her eyes. She reluctantly agrees with Leon, acknowledging that Veronica must be in a fragile state after everything that just happened. With a pointed look, she accepts his concern for Veronica's well-being but tells him to return quickly after her departure, reminding him that she will be waiting to fulfill their promise. Once the princess leaves, Leon hands Veronica over to a subordinate. He gives the man an address on Riven Street, ordering him to escort her safely to her room and then report back immediately. As she's led away, Veronica stops and calls out Leon's name. She asks what happened to the helmet he gave her. He seems to have forgotten it entirely. Brushing it off, he asks if anything other than her breathing is wrong. Exhausted, Veronica shakes her head. She just wants to lie down and rest, pleading to finally be allowed to leave. As they prepare to part ways, Leon warns Veronica that it could be dangerous. He orders her to go with the soldiers and strictly forbids her from leaving the room. Veronica looks at him with her piercing red eyes and asks a pointed question. Is he worried about danger to her, or the danger she might pose to others? The inquiry clearly catches him off guard. He stammers for a moment before dismissing her concern as nothing. As she turns to leave with her escort, Leon suddenly calls out for her to wait, but she's already gone. Watching her disappear into the night, a strange anxiety washes over him. He reflects on how he'd always expected someone to be there waiting for him when he returned. It was a nagging feeling he had pushed aside, telling himself he would simply handle it later. Now, standing alone under the moonlit sky, that unresolved feeling comes rushing back as the sound of crickets fills the quiet air. As the night grows quiet, Leon is left alone with his thoughts, the moonlight casting long shadows across the room. He sinks into a chair, unsettled by the strange anxiety Veronica left him with. His mind drifts to an old memory, a moment when her warmth felt so close. He recalls her leaning in, her voice full of a desperate fire. She had told him she wanted him to love her so much that he would completely lose himself. Only after that, she had promised, would he truly be free. The memory fades, leaving him more conflicted than before. Elsewhere, his subordinates search the darkened streets. They learn from a passerby that a woman was seen running off just moments ago. Their investigation leads them to a priest, who they ask about Oscar Burke. The priest informs them that Oscar hasn't returned, but as a knight, he is free to come and go after his duties are done. The news is a small comfort. If Veronica is with Oscar, at least she's not in immediate danger. Even with reports that Veronica is likely safe with Oscar, Leon can't shake his unease. He walks alone under the moonlight, trying to identify the feeling grating on his nerves. He realizes it isn't just worry. It's the same powerful emotion that hit him like a tidal wave the moment he found her room empty, and he still can't put a name to it. Lost in these thoughts, his steps suddenly come to a halt. Across the stone-paved street, he spots a familiar figure. It's Veronica, but any relief he might have felt is instantly replaced by confusion. She isn't with Oscar Burke. Instead, she's standing with a different man, engaged in a quiet conversation. A deep frown marks Leon's face as he watches from the shadows, wondering just what in the world she is up to now. The story rewinds a few hours, showing what led Veronica to this point. She was huddled alone on the cold ground, completely lost in despair. An old, traumatic memory suddenly overwhelms her. She flashes back to a grim scene from her past, one where two people lost their lives right before her eyes. The thought that she was the one responsible echoes in her mind, a crushing weight she can never seem to escape. This horrifying vision jolts her from her thoughts, and she flinches, her breath catching in her throat. She's no longer in the alley but indoors, in a quiet, safe room. An old acquaintance has taken her in. Facing this person across a small table, Veronica quietly apologizes for her sudden return. She also expresses her regret for disappearing without a word the last time they saw each other. Her companion's response is simple and kind, telling her not to worry about it at all. The woman, Hannah, greets Veronica warmly, saying she was missed. She cheerfully announces her two welcome guests today include Volland, who stands nearby with a hesitant look. At the table, the mood is a bit stiff. Volland quietly says it's been a while, and Veronica agrees. Seeing their discomfort, Hannah playfully asks why they're acting like strangers. Veronica doesn't answer, instead focusing on the warm cup in her hands. She thinks about how peaceful it feels to be around ordinary people, a stark contrast to her own life. Suddenly, that peace is shattered by a grim memory from her past, a violent scene that always haunts her. The vision disappears as quickly as it appeared, leaving her unsettled. Hannah, unaware of Veronica's inner turmoil, breaks the silence. She holds up a small red shirt, asking for Veronica's opinion. Veronica looks on in surprise, realizing they're baby clothes. Hannah holds up the tiny red shirt, explaining they couldn't add a name since they don't know the baby's gender yet. She shares a sweet story about her own mother's pregnancy, wondering if her own experience is similar. While Volland is skeptical, Hannah's simple joy is obvious. But for Veronica, the talk of mothers triggers a painful memory. Suddenly, she's lost in a vision of her own parents. She sees their warm smiles captured in a family portrait. She hears her mother's voice, a gentle plea not to go too far from home, to remember the people who would miss her. But the memory twists into something horrific. The warmth vanishes, replaced by the cold shadow of a blade. A terrible realization hits her. She believes this is her punishment, not just for being the sole survivor in a ruined city, but for running away from everyone who cared. The vision shatters, leaving her breathless, her eyes glowing with a familiar crimson horror. The traumatic vision fades, but the crimson glow in Veronica's eyes remains. Oscar notices immediately, his expression filled with concern. He quietly asks if she is all right. With a hollow look, Veronica confesses that she has never been all right. But she feels she doesn't have the right to be okay, nor to complain about her suffering. This deep-seated guilt worries Oscar. Believing she might be held against her will, he offers her a way out. He tells her that if Leon is forcing her to stay, he will provide immediate help, and she can pay back the debt later. Veronica firmly rejects his offer. She explains that the Knights need her to find the first Bahamut. Beyond that, she has one more personal reason to end this calamity, a new motivation she gained just today. Oscar is left confused. From his point of view, the kingdom has known peace for over 1,000 years. He begins to suspect that Leon's story about her connection to the first monster is nothing more than an unproven assertion. Oscar continues trying to persuade Veronica. He insists that even if her connection to Leon is real, she has no obligation to stay by his side. He admits he's still skeptical about the whole assimilation story, but wants to help regardless. Veronica politely cuts him off, thanking him for his concern. Her next words catch him completely off guard. With a knowing smile, she confesses that she likes her current situation and wants to stay by Leon's side. She admits that even after he foolishly rejected her, she still has feelings left. As she speaks, her true motivation becomes clear. The reason she endures so much pain is not for some grand mission or to prove a point. She simply wants to become someone necessary to him. Her deepest desire is to be loved by Leon. As their conversation wraps up, Oscar spots his brother in the distance. He tells Veronica that since Leon is here, he'll be on his way, and thanks her for her company. After an awkward pause, Oscar turns to her with a serious look. He admits that she's stronger than he thought. Veronica seems a little surprised by the sudden compliment. She explains that she was just thinking the same thing about him. With a slight smile, she tells him he's more like a real knight than she expected. Oscar is momentarily caught off guard by her words, unsure how to react. Just then, a familiar voice cuts in from behind. It's Leon. He coolly corrects Veronica, stating that Oscar isn't like a knight, he is a knight. Flustered by his sudden appearance, Veronica quickly agrees. Leon watches the two of them, his expression unreadable, leaving a heavy silence hanging in the air. An uncomfortable silence hangs between Veronica and Leon. She nervously wonders if he's angry that she left, even though she eventually returned. Leon finally breaks the tension with a backhanded comment, noting that she seems to have a type. Confused, Veronica listens as he continues, suggesting that if she has a thing for knights, she should pick someone other than a stiff, like his brother. Annoyed by his assumption, Veronica fires back. She tells him not to jump to conclusions, declaring that Oscar isn't trying to use her like he is. She explains that Oscar just feels guilty and wants to apologize for what happened. This was the wrong move. Leon's friendly demeanor vanishes. He grabs her, his eyes narrowed, and demands to know what Oscar could possibly have to apologize for. Veronica freezes, a painful memory flashing through her mind. Realizing he would never understand, she quickly lies, claiming she only met Oscar because she was scared of being alone. Leon's friendly expression disappears in an instant. He reminds Veronica of his earlier warning, when a guy is nice to her, it's always for a reason. He asks if she's already forgotten his words. Confused by his sudden shift, Veronica asks why he's so angry. Leon denies it, but his hand clenching her dress says otherwise. She pushes back, demanding to know what she did wrong to deserve this. His face turns cold as he lists her mistakes. First, she ran off to find another man the moment she was left alone. Second, she made things needlessly complicated with that man she dealt with back in the city. Veronica argues that she had no choice. It was self-defense. But Leon isn't having it. He leans in, his voice low, and asks if she really thinks he would have let her die. Before she can process his question, he delivers a chilling ultimatum. She won't be allowed any real freedom until the monster inside her is completely gone. Veronica looks him dead in the eye, telling him he's just like his father. Her own eyes glow a dangerous red as she remembers Mecklenburg also only kept her alive because she was useful. She challenges everything Leon stands for, questioning his faith and what it means to be a knight who protects people. Leon's patience snaps. He warns her to watch her mouth, admitting he's starting to regret ever saving her. Veronica isn't backing down. She asks when he ever really saved her, accusing him of repeatedly throwing her into hopeless situations. She gets personal, asking if he's angry that she keeps surviving or that she was the one who brought in the news about his father. Seeing his pained expression, she twists the knife, claiming he's just as starved for affection as she is. She says he secretly hopes his father was there to save him, not just retrieve a sword. He dismisses her, telling her to act like an adult. This is the last straw. Veronica finally screams that she's sick of being treated like she isn't even human. Fed up, Veronica challenges him, suggesting she might as well go to Oscar if this is how he's going to be. In an instant, Leon's hand snaps out, grabbing her arm. He tells her flatly that's not going to happen. In a low voice, he reveals something Oscar could never do. He would have kept her alive no matter what, even if she defied the Emperor himself. A cruel smirk spreads across his face as he asks if this is the twisted side she was so curious to see. He forces her chin up, leaning in close until their faces are inches apart. Veronica scoffs, sarcastically asking if he really thinks this will make her like him. He tells her not to be mistaken. His final words are a brutal blow. He confesses that the simple act of touching her is so disgusting that it makes him want to be physically ill. Veronica can only stare, stunned by his venomous words. Still reeling from Leon's cruel confession, Veronica's control finally snaps. Her hand connects with his cheek in a sharp slap. She shoves him away, ordering him to stay back as her eyes burn a dangerous, monstrous red. She challenges him, asking what he'll do now. When he remains silent, she threatens to scream and bring the whole world down on them. But Leon is completely unfazed. A cold smirk spreads across his face as he calmly tells her to go ahead. Before she can make a sound, he closes the distance in an instant, pinning her against the wall. His face is just inches from hers, his hand cupping her jaw in a firm grip. Veronica scoffs at his actions. She points out that for someone who claims to be disgusted by her, he certainly seems to have a strong stomach. Leon's expression darkens, his gaze intense as he looks down at her. Without a hint of hesitation, he simply agrees. Pinned against the wall, Veronica can only stare as Leon holds her face. He tells her he is disgusted by her, yet he has a strange confession to make. Seeing her so overwhelmed in his arms makes all of his anger simply vanish. He leans in, his face just inches from hers, and his voice drops to a venomous whisper. He reminds himself that he's just dealing with a clever, barbaric monster. He continues his verbal assault, accusing her of shamelessly clinging to anyone who can give her a drop of holy power. Veronica is stunned by his cruelty, breathing out that he's insane. A faint, knowing smirk plays on Leon's lips as he calmly agrees that he might be. In a quiet moment, his thoughts drift to his father. He reflects for one night. He dared to desire a woman. Now, he will gladly accept the punishment for it. In a gesture that completely contradicts his harsh words, he gently presses a kiss to her forehead. Leon finds himself in a meeting with Princess Joanna. She observes him, noting her maid is enjoying a drink on her behalf, a small pleasure she allows while managing her diet for her dresses. The topic shifts to the military. Leon reports that the king has summoned all available troops, assembling what will likely be the largest combat force ever. The princess muses that everyone has been on edge since they witnessed the synchronizer's power firsthand. Changing her tone, she pats the empty space on the couch beside her, asking why Leon is standing so far away. She reminds him that she made it clear her knights are to sit by her side. Leon remains standing, stating that the loyalty he pledged was not of that nature. Joanna presses further, suggesting that physical closeness is the key to connecting with someone's heart. Her words trigger a sharp memory for Veronica. Lying alone, she recalls her own painful encounter, thinking how well she now understands that very idea. Alone, Leon reflects on his encounter with Veronica. He questions what sin has taken root in his heart. As a man who gave everything to his faith, he believed he had nothing left to give, yet these new feelings haunt him. His thoughts are interrupted when he stands before Princess Joanna. An attendant announces the arrival of the expected guest. Joanna gestures toward a massive feast, telling him to send the guest in. She explains that since she couldn't eat it all, she invited someone else to prevent waste, a guest she claims will be entertaining for them both. To Leon's surprise, Veronica is escorted into the room. She stands nervously, wondering why she was summoned. Her attention is then drawn to a bizarre sight. A maid is devouring food from the table with frantic desperation. As Veronica watches in confusion, Princess Joanna looks on with a cool, knowing smirk, clearly enjoying the uncomfortable situation she has created. Veronica's attention fixes on Princess Joanna, a woman she sees as dazzlingly beautiful, someone lovable, and therefore loved. When Veronica notices Leon glance in her direction, she quietly asks why she was summoned, reminding him that his meeting with the princess was supposed to be private. As Joanna realizes who holds Leon's interest, a powerful jealousy grips Veronica. She feels foolish, so consumed by this new emotion that she can't even focus on the suffering maid beside her. Princess Joanna simply laughs, telling Leon they have more than enough time together. Her smile turns cold as she looks toward Veronica, asking the knight if he feels any pity for a pawn destined to be sacrificed on the battlefield. The pointed remark hits its target, leaving Veronica stunned. Leon looks away, a troubled expression on his face. The cruel game has just begun. Veronica stands frozen, her mind echoing the princess's cruel words. A battlefield? Joanna explains with a casual air that an army is being gathered to fight the great beast, Bahamut. She begins to speculate on Veronica's likely role in the coming conflict, but Leon cuts her off sharply, addressing her as Your Highness. The warning in his voice is unmistakable. The princess pauses, then decides to change tactics. She dismisses the frantic maid, telling her to leave them. Once the servant is gone, Joanna turns her cold gaze back to Veronica, demanding to know what she is staring at. The room grows heavy with unspoken threats. Seeing Veronica's distress, Leon quickly steps in. He awkwardly tries to divert attention, stating that a helmet displayed on the wall looks familiar. Veronica, still reeling from the conversation, can only ask what he means. But Leon isn't looking at her. His eyes are fixed on the helmet, a desperate attempt to shield her from Joanna's games. Princess Joanna acknowledges the helmet Leon indicated. With a slight smile, she explains it was a gift from Sir Burke, who gave it to her after hearing she would be meeting with Veronica, claiming he was worried about her being near a monster. The targeted insult hits Veronica hard. The word gift triggers a painful memory. Someone had given her something precious, warning her never to return it. Leon, noticing Veronica's frozen expression, misreads the situation. He simply states he's relieved that she seems pleased with his choice of topic. But the princess sees the whole picture. She silently scoffs at the foolish, naive monster before her. It's clear Leon isn't telling Veronica the truth, and Joanna finds the girl's ignorance pitiful. Having made her point, Joanna switches gears. She calmly announces that the real reason she summoned Veronica was to ask for a favor. The game continues, but the rules have changed once again. Princess Joanna reveals her true intentions. She calmly states that the man Veronica dealt with the day before was one of her own guards. While not heartbroken, she still suffered a loss. Her proposed solution is shocking. She wants Veronica to become her friend. Veronica is stunned into silence. The princess explains that Veronica's special eyes, which can see the world's dangers, are quite useful. She boasts that with Leon sworn to her side, she has nothing to fear. Joanna then offers a bribe of jewels and fine dresses, but Veronica has a different price in mind. Gathering her courage, she asks if this friendship would grant her access to the records she seeks. Her visions have made her desperate to understand the prophecies of the past. Leon looks on grimly as Joanna considers the proposal. The princess admits that Veronica's request is certainly unexpected, a slight smile playing on her lips as she holds all the power. Princess Joanna turns to Leon, asking for his thoughts on Veronica's bold request. He tries to intervene, explaining that there are plenty of records at the Vatican, so there's no need to grant her access to the imperial archives. But Veronica quickly shuts him down, firmly stating that she trusts the imperial records more than any others. Seeing this, a slow smile spreads across Joanna's face. She agrees to the deal, but with a shocking condition: Veronica must become her friend and live at the palace. Leon is visibly alarmed. He immediately warns the princess that it's far too dangerous to keep a synchronizer so close. Ignoring his concern completely, Veronica thanks the princess for the offer, formally accepting it as an immense honor. Leon is left stunned as a maid appears to escort Veronica, whose expression shows a newfound resolve. The deal is done, and she has just made her move. As a maid leads her through the palace, Veronica questions her own impulsive decision. Did she truly make the right choice? But she quickly pushes the doubt aside. This is her best shot at finally finding the truth about Bahamut and the terrible prophecy that haunts her. For now, she resolves to just focus on what she can control. Suddenly, she stumbles to a halt in the middle of the hall. A powerful, unsettling feeling washes over her. The sunlit corridor completely vanishes, replaced by an absolute, terrifying darkness. Before her, a monstrous shadow takes form, a creature made of nightmares with multiple glowing eyes fixed right on her. A broken voice echoes directly inside her mind, its terrifying words becoming clear. It had found her. The monster knew exactly where she was, and it was coming. The terrifying words echo in Veronica's mind. Found you. She stumbles back to reality, the sunlit hallway reappearing around her. Gasping for breath, she questions if the monstrous shadow was just a vision. A chilling certainty tells her it was real, and it was a warning.
Panic sets in.
She turns to the maid, explaining that it's urgent. She must go back to Princess Joanna immediately. But before she can take a single step, a powerful explosion rocks the entire palace. The grand windows shatter, sending glass flying across the hall. Veronica looks out in shock, realizing the unthinkable. The artillery fire isn't coming from outside the walls, it's coming from within the imperial grounds. As she processes this new horror, a figure blocks her path. It's Leon. He looks down at her with a cold, detached expression, asking what she is still doing there. Veronica can only stare back, stunned into silence. Staring back at Leon, Veronica's shock quickly hardens into resolve. She explains her terrifying realization. She believes the creature from her vision is the one attacking the palace, and it's looking for her. As Leon turns to head toward the danger, she firmly declares that if he's going to investigate, she is coming with him. Before he can object, a second, deafening explosion rips through the nearby hall. The world dissolves into dust and flying debris. In a split second, Leon's cold expression vanishes completely. He lunges, pulling Veronica down and shielding her with his own body as they crash to the stone floor. When the chaos subsides, Veronica looks up from beneath him and asks if he's all right. A trickle of blood runs down the side of his face. Her voice fills with concern as she realizes he's been injured protecting her. For a moment, he just stares down, his instinct to shield her overriding everything else. Ignoring his injury, Leon gets to his feet, wiping a trickle of blood from his head. He announces that he's heading straight for the ramparts to assess the attack. Looking down at Veronica, he simply tells her to stay close. She quickly follows him through the destroyed corridor to the outer walls. There, a soldier gives them a grim report. The cannon fire came from their own men. The palace guards suddenly turned on them. They moved as one, making the situation incredibly difficult to contain, but the internal threat has now been neutralized. As the soldier speaks, Veronica recalls a horrifying detail. The attackers had glowing red eyes. She covers her mouth, realizing it must have been synchronization. A horde of monsters is now gathering outside the walls, held at bay only by a divine barrier. The soldier confirms her theory, noting that this coordinated attack was far from random, but a calculated strike from within. The soldier seems just as confused as they are. He explains that only people who saw a specific beheaded statue 20 years ago were supposed to be vulnerable to synchronization. For that very reason, they have always stationed young soldiers on the ramparts, a precaution that has now catastrophically failed. This information chills Veronica to the bone. She's overwhelmed by a single, terrifying thought. Will she end up just like them one day? A mindless puppet, controlled against her will? Suddenly, her own vision flashes red. The horde of monsters outside the barrier has stopped moving entirely. Leon instantly recognizes their tactic. They're trying to force eye contact. He yells for Veronica to close her eyes before she's synchronized. But it's too late. The men standing near them go rigid, their eyes glowing a sinister red. Veronica stares in horror as a vision consumes her. Shadowy hands reach out from the darkness, pulling her into a nightmare she can't escape. Veronica is trapped inside a terrifying vision, her mind reeling from the synchronization attack. A desperate cry for help echoes through the darkness, followed by the flash of a holy knight's blade. An instant later, she witnesses a body plummeting from the high walls of the ramparts. As her consciousness starts to fade, a single, horrifying truth crystallizes in her mind. This was no random assault. The enemy could turn anyone they wanted into one of their puppets. The nightmare deepens with this realization. They hadn't just been attacking indiscriminately, they had been carefully selecting their targets. The scene shifts, and monstrous, gnarled hands begin to rise from the ground around her. She finally understands the chilling message. The monsters weren't just hunting humans. They were hunting very particular humans. As the shadowy hands reach for her, she knows without a doubt that she is one of their targets. Veronica's eyes flutter open. She's in an unfamiliar bed, the attack still a blur. Leon is in the room, his expression grim. He immediately gets to the point, asking who is responsible for the wound on her back, the Pope or his own father, Mecklenburg. Confused, she asks what happened. As she tries to sit up, a sharp pain reminds her of the battle. She asks if he saved her. Leon dismisses the question, confident this wasn't his father's work. He says Mecklenburg's methods are far more sinister. Veronica asks him to explain. Leon reveals his father's preferred tactic, completely isolating his victims to shatter their spirit. The revelation hangs heavy in the air, and she asks if that's what happened to him. He leans in close, avoiding a direct answer. Uncomfortable, Veronica pushes back, insisting she was fine surviving alone in the Vatican dungeons. But Leon cuts her off, kneeling beside her bed. He makes it clear that her days of facing danger alone are over. Despite his vow to protect her, Veronica resists, insisting she doesn't need his divine power. Shifting the subject, she asks what happened after she collapsed, and if everyone else is safe. Leon's expression hardens. He reveals that the synchronized soldiers had to be permanently dealt with to prevent them from turning on more people. The news is a heavy blow, but a chilling memory from her vision resurfaces, a monstrous voice searching for something called the Head of God, right before it declared, "Found you." Putting it all together, she tells Leon she believes the great monster Bahamut is hunting her. Leon's response is shockingly blunt. He warns her that if she wants to be thrown out of the city with no protection, she can go right ahead. His words are harsh, but his meaning is clear. He is not letting her face this danger by herself. Leon turns away, telling Veronica to rest for the day. When she asks if she's meant to stay in this room, he explains that it's hers now, a personal gift from her dear friend, the princess. As he heads for the door, Veronica stops him. She insists he answer her question before he goes. Leon pauses, turning back to face her. She asks him directly what his father, Mecklenburg, did to him. She even proposes a deal. If he tells her his story, she'll tell him who is behind her injury. Leon flatly refuses, claiming he's not curious. But Veronica knows better, calling it a lie. She begins to list things, small, precious things. A marble, a baby bird, a stray dog, and a boy who is almost a friend. A painful memory surfaces of a young Leon being pushed on a swing by his mother. Veronica states that Mecklenburg took her, too. The flashback ends in fire, as she concludes that his father systematically destroyed everything he ever loved. Leon doesn't deny a single word. He calmly confirms the grim reality of his childhood. The shattered marble, the lost bird, and the dog that met a terrible end right in front of him. He even recalls the boy who was almost a friend, who suffered a horrible accident. Stunned, Veronica can only ask what he is. Leon looks away, his voice devoid of emotion as he adds the final, most devastating piece. He says his mother took her own life, or perhaps was pushed to it. In that moment, Veronica sees an abyss in his eyes deeper than darkness itself. She knows how easy it is to give up. But looking at him, she realizes what she truly needs to say. It isn't an accusation or simple comfort. She looks directly at him and confesses, "I like you." The words hang in the air. She knows it might seem foolish after everything, but it feels like the only truth that matters. She pleads that he's hurt her enough and asks him, just this once, to finally be honest with her. After her raw confession, Veronica reaches for Leon's hand, admitting she waited for him simply because she likes him. She pleads that giving up isn't something she can easily do, desperately hoping her feelings will finally break through his walls. But Leon's response is devastatingly cold. He looks down at her and delivers his honest, unfiltered truth. He says the only thing he can offer her is his sincere wish for her death. This isn't a lie or a cruel deflection, it's his genuine feeling. He pulls his hand away, telling her not to cry for him. With a final, crushing weight, he commands her never to forgive him. As he turns to leave her alone in the room, Veronica's resolve shatters. A horrifying thought surfaces. Did some small part of her want to be broken by him, just to become something he desired? The idea is so twisted, she begins to question her own sanity. After leaving Veronica shattered, Leon stands alone in a quiet hall, wrestling with his own brutal words. He reflects that giving up has always been easy for him. Throughout his life, a dark pattern has followed him. Anything he wanted would break, anything he liked would be shattered, and anything he loved was destined for ruin. This curse is why he turned to God, the only being his love couldn't seem to destroy. He thought Veronica was an exception. In his twisted logic, she was special because she was already broken and seemed fated to die from the moment they met. Believing he couldn't possibly damage her further, he let his guard down around her. But her genuine confession proved how wrong he was. Clenching his fist in regret, Leon realizes his mistake. He was so stupid to believe he could get close without consequence. Still reeling from his own brutal rejection of Veronica, Leon stumbles upon his brother, Oscar. Cutting through the small talk, Leon gets straight to the point. He asks about the severe injuries on Veronica's back, demanding to know who is responsible. Oscar flinches, stunned that Leon knows about that dark secret. Seeing the guilt on his brother's face, Leon's anger boils over. He grabs Oscar, accusing him of approaching Veronica again even after everything she had endured. Pinned down, Oscar finally confesses it was all his own doing. That confession seals his fate. A brilliant blue light erupts from Leon as he unleashes his divine power. He begins to forcefully drain Oscar's holy energy, a forbidden technique only the master of the holy sword can perform. As his power is stripped away, Oscar can only stare in horror at the cold, unforgiving authority of his brother. As Oscar writhed on the ground, overwhelmed by the divine power flowing from Leon, his brother explained the grim reality. A subjugation squad was being formed to handle the monsters at the walls, and the unsynchronized holy knights were being sent to the front lines. There was a high probability Veronica would be drafted into that deadly group. Leon loomed over him, giving a chilling order. Oscar was to protect her, no matter what happened. He was to ensure her survival, even if it meant sacrificing his own life. Confused, Oscar asked why Leon didn't just protect her himself, urging him to take responsibility and keep her alive. In response, Leon simply overpowered him further, his unspoken threat hanging in the air. As he forced his brother into submission, the reason for his brutal actions became clear. The memory of Veronica's gentle smile and her earnest confession, "I like you," flashed through his mind. As Leon walks away, a single thought consumes him. Veronica's feelings were mutual all along. Just then, a loud crash from the castle walls signals that trouble is brewing. Elsewhere, Princess Joanna sits for her maids, complaining about the upcoming Foundation Festival being a complete disaster. She turns to Veronica, who stands silently in the room, and asks if she's heard the news about joining the subjugation squad. Veronica quietly confirms she has. But the princess has more to share. She reveals that it isn't just Veronica, His Majesty has assigned Leon to the squad as well. Picking up a knight's helmet, Joanna scoffs that Leon is like an untamable lion, wondering if they should have taken measures to break his spirit sooner. Veronica calmly informs her that Leon intends to pledge his loyalty to the princess. Unimpressed, Joanna dismisses a simple oath as meaningless. She then turns to Veronica, demanding to know what she thinks should be done. Princess Joanna confronts Veronica with a cruel smile, mocking the idea of a knight who would so easily break his sacred vows. Flustered, Veronica rushes to Leon's defense. She insists that Sir Burke has never broken his vow of chastity, at least not to her knowledge. But Joanna has already laid her trap. The scene cuts to a private room, where a knight's helmet rests on the floor. It becomes painfully clear that Leon is with a princess, their compromising situation confirming Joanna's taunts. Just outside the door, Veronica stands completely frozen, her eyes wide with shock. She had just defended Leon's honor, only to witness him with another woman. From the room, Joanna's triumphant expression says it all. This was her plan, to utterly shatter Veronica's spirit. With a cruel smile hidden behind her fan, Princess Joanna questions Veronica's certainty. She asks how anyone could be so sure that Leon Burke has kept his sacred vows, hinting that there are countless sides to the knight Veronica knows nothing about. Calling her naive, Joanna then brings up Veronica's past, mentioning she once worked as a dancer in a small village. The princess makes a humiliating demand. She wants a private performance. Setting a pair of red shoes on the floor, she orders Veronica to dance until satisfied. Desperate for access to the archives, Veronica quietly agrees to the demeaning task. Joanna smirks, giving her permission. But as Veronica reaches for the shoes, a foot stomps down, crushing them completely. The sound echoes in the silent room. Veronica gasps in shock as Joanna's triumphant grin reveals her true intention. This was never about a dance. It was about pure, calculated cruelty. The princess's calculated cruelty hangs in the air, but Veronica remains standing. For a moment, the weight of the humiliation presses down on her. The shattered shoes are a symbol of her shattered hopes. But as she looks down, a quiet strength begins to surface from within. Her trembling stops. She tells herself that she will not be crushed by this kind of harassment, nor will she break down over something like this anymore. As Princess Joanna watches with a smug expression, Veronica reflects on her past. All the hardships she faced have made her tougher, like calluses forming over time. She realizes that this petty display isn't enough to truly break her. With a newfound determination in her eyes, Veronica holds her head high. She hasn't forgotten her true purpose for being here. There are still things she must accomplish, and she won't let anyone, not even a princess, stand in her way. Joanna wanted to see her crumble, but all she gets is unbreakable resolve. Deep within the archives, Veronica uncovers a dark chapter from the past. A former pope, Wilhelm I, had declared a group of prophets heretics and ordered them to be dealt with. The Holy Knight Order refused to enter the wastelands, so the Imperial Knights were sent to carry out the sentence instead. They returned with a chilling report. The Knights witnessed a strange phenomenon. The blood of the condemned did not soak into the wasteland soil. As Veronica reads this, she finds another text describing the Holy Land from a prophecy, a paradise where innocent blood will never be spilled. For 1,000 years, everyone assumed this meant the city of Kartra. But as Veronica connects the two accounts, a horrifying realization dawns on her. The prophecy never explicitly named Kartra. She looks down at the old records, her hands trembling. A land where blood doesn't flow. Could it be that the cursed wasteland is the true Holy Land? In a quiet tavern, Leon sits with a former colleague from his monastery days. The man looks skeptical, asking if Leon truly believes his wild theory. He questions the idea that the monster is searching for an assimilator, and even wonders aloud if God descended into a human body on that day 20 years ago. The man recalls a prophecy stating that God would change his dwelling when the world grew dark. Leon calmly sips his drink, then adds a chilling piece to the puzzle. He found a record of a solar eclipse that occurred just before the giant statue in the wasteland was damaged. The timing is too perfect. To find more answers, Leon asks for help getting into the Vatican archives. His friend complains that Leon only ever asks for favors, reminding him that he's been watching a certain woman's in for him. Then, a suspicious look crosses his face. He asks Leon if he's developed some foolish attachment to her, though he quickly dismisses the thought. A devout knight like Leon wouldn't do that, would he? Leon's friend slams his mug on the table, convinced the knight has lost his mind. He forbids Leon from even thinking about approaching the assimilator, while the main forces are deployed, accusing him of manipulating the expedition for his own agenda. But Leon calmly denies it. He says it's nothing serious. He was simply imagining a woman who might still be alive when everything is over. He pictures a simple, peaceful life for her, one where she could get married, eat with her family, and chat about nothing by a sunlit window. As he imagines her smile, a cough escapes his lips. A single drop of blood hits the floor. Leon touches his mouth, a troubled look on his face. He considers this feeling, this hope for her future, to be an indecent thought for a knight like him. He wonders if even God would forgive him for it. Meanwhile, back in the archives, Veronica stares at the ancient texts, her own monstrous eyes wide with a horrifying realization. Veronica approaches Princess Joanna, who notes her busy time in the archives. Joanna calls Veronica's theory unbelievable, the idea that the Holy Land is a wilderness rather than Kartra. Despite her doubts, the princess agrees to mention the matter to His Majesty, explaining she can't ignore what she witnessed of the assimilator's power. Veronica is shocked, then overwhelmed with gratitude. Joanna cautions her not to get her hopes up, admitting the king is a stubborn man. For Veronica, however, this is more than enough. Looking at a cherished photo of her family, she feels a surge of hope. This time she might save someone, at least she could save Kartra. The princess then asks for a favor. She hands Veronica a handkerchief, requesting she give it to Lord Burke as a good luck charm. Veronica's hope vanishes. A cold memory surfaces, a man's voice, from the night before, echoing in her mind. He had told her that, at that very moment, he wished for her death. The princess's request triggers a painful memory for Veronica. She recalls Leon once claiming he would never embrace a woman, even if he fell in love. A bitter thought forms in her mind. He was a liar. Her thoughts are interrupted as the expedition prepares to leave. A man in pristine silver armor approaches, introducing himself as Philip von Wittelsbach, vice captain of the Holy Knights. Veronica freezes. This is the man who sentenced her to death. He looks down on her, his expression cold. Philip makes it clear his judgment hasn't changed. Once the king's protection ends, her execution will proceed. Until then, she is to be watched, and any suspicious action will result in her immediate end. Changing the subject, he notes that she can't ride a horse and that someone will assist her. But Veronica has only one thing on her mind. She demands to see Lord Burke. Philip refuses, stating Leon is marching elsewhere. Unfazed, Veronica pulls out the handkerchief. She says this is a direct order from Princess Joanna. With her duty clear, Veronica states she has something she must deliver. She walks past the formidable vice captain, her focus locked on one person. Stopping before the man with deep red hair, she calls out his name, Leon Burke. He turns, surprised to see her. Veronica extends her hand, holding out the handkerchief. Confused, Leon asks what it is. She explains it's a charm meant to wish him good fortune. He takes the soft cloth and his expression changes the moment he sees the golden imperial emblem stitched into the corner. It's obvious who sent it. Veronica watches him carefully. A beautiful radiance fills his eyes, his gaze piercing and intense, as if he's admiring a treasure that exists nowhere else. She sees it with absolute clarity. That is the look of someone in love. As the realization hits her, her own hand tightens into a fist. Leon turns away, clutching the hilt of his sword tightly before giving the order to move out. As the expedition marches through the cheering crowds, a knight in full armor assists Veronica onto a horse. She's surprised to realize it's Oscar. He explains that it's better for her to travel with someone she knows. He then notices her expression and asks what happened to her face, mentioning she looked hurt before. Oscar quickly dismisses his own flushed cheeks as nothing, instead pointing out that she's the one who looks unwell. His concern triggers a sharp memory. She recalls Leon asking if something had happened, a moment where her hand clenched her clothes in distress. The flashback is so strong that she freezes completely. Oscar's voice breaks through the haze, calling her name with worry. Veronica snaps back to the present, her eyes wide with the fresh sting of Leon's betrayal and the confusing memory it unearthed. Oscar's question sends Veronica spiraling. Memories flash through her mind, warm faces from her village smiling, wishing her a safe return. Her friends call out her name, their voices a painful echo from a life she can no longer reach. The sudden flood of emotion is overwhelming, and she clenches her fist, fighting to hold herself together as she rides. She forces herself to regain composure. She once believed Leon was all she had left in the world, but everything is different now. The truth of his feelings for another has changed her perspective completely. She realizes she has things to protect, people whose memories she must honor. As she looks out at the world passing by, her resolve hardens. Her once cursed red eyes now burn with a new purpose. To protect what matters, she understands that she must fight. The expedition finally advances, with Philip shouting tactical orders to his knights. Their strategy is to push the enemy back from the southwest, but the plan immediately stalls. The monstrous creatures are completely still, an unnerving, silent army that refuses to engage. Frustrated by the stalemate, Philip reveals their backup plan. They must lure the monsters onto prepared ground doused in oil and set them ablaze. The word lure strikes a chord with Veronica. A chilling vision flashes in her mind, a grotesque, multi-eyed beast whispering that it has found her. She now understands the truth. They aren't here for the knights. They're here for her. Philip tries to caution her, but Veronica interrupts him. Knowing the knights will only get hurt if they follow the current plan, she steps forward with steely resolve. She confidently declares that she can handle it herself, announcing she will be the one to gather all the creatures in a single place. Philip immediately questions Veronica's bold declaration, asking if she intends to sacrifice herself. He's skeptical, pointing out that if trained knights can't get the monsters to move, her idea that they will chase only her seems unbelievable. But Veronica cuts him off with unshakable confidence. She insists they will absolutely follow her. She explains that she believes their leader, Bahamut, is searching for something specific, and that something is her. Internally, she knows the risk is enormous. What if they attack? But she reasons that if they simply wanted her gone, they would have done it already. The fact that they haven't suggests they want something from her. Looking directly at Philip, she admits it's hard to explain but begs him to trust her this one time. She makes her final point. If her potential end could prevent a greater sacrifice from the knights, then the only thing the vice captain has to risk on this plan is a single horse. With Philip's trust on the line, Veronica declares she will go alone. Volland, however, refuses to let her, insisting he will go with her. As the loyal knight tries to follow, Philip gives a quiet but firm order to his men, who quickly grab Volland and hold him back despite his protests. Ignoring the commotion, Veronica walks toward her horse but pauses. She turns to the vice captain with a serious condition. If her plan succeeds, she returns alive, and not a single person dies. She asks Philip to be on her side just once. She clarifies that she isn't asking the church to risk its honor on her, an assimilator. Hearing her terms, Philip looks down from his mount. He tells her that if she pulls this off, he won't just help her once. In the name of his house, Wittelsbach, he vows to help her 10 times. Stunned by his incredible show of faith, Veronica can only offer a quiet word of thanks. With Philip's unbelievable promise hanging in the air, Veronica turns to her horse. She gently strokes its neck, giving it a sincere apology for the dangerous path they are about to take. She warns the animal that this journey will not be easy. Hoisting herself into the saddle, she commands her horse to run freely until they reach the truth of Bahamut. As she gallops away from the fortress, the impossible happens. The entire horde of monsters begins to move, their glowing red cores pulsing as they turn to follow her. Back at the gate, the knights are in complete shock. One of them nervously reports to the vice captain that the monsters are actually following the assimilator. Just as she predicted, Veronica now leads a terrifying army of monsters across the plains, leaving the stunned knights behind in the snow. Her wild gamble had worked. As Veronica gallops across the snowy plains, Philip watches from the fortress wall. He notes with satisfaction that everything is proceeding just as planned before giving a single, chilling order to his archers. At his command, a volley of flaming arrows streaks through the sky. They rain down around Veronica, crashing into the ground and erupting in a shower of fire and sparks, seemingly trapping her in a deadly cage of flames. Meanwhile, Leon's troops are completely baffled. They can't understand why the monsters, who were previously unmovable, are suddenly on the march. Their confusion is interrupted when a messenger arrives with an urgent report from the vice captain. The news is grim. The assimilator lured the Bahamuts away and sacrificed herself in the process. Leon is stunned silent. The false report hits him hard, his knuckles turning white as he grips his horse's reins, struggling to process the devastating information. Ignoring the desperate shouts of his men, Leon spurred his horse onward. They pleaded for him to stop, warning him that it was far too dangerous, but he refused to listen. A single thought echoed in his mind. Not yet. He felt he had already given Veronica everything, his love included, and now he had no more promises left to make. He had nothing left to lose. He finally arrived at a horrifying scene. A massive wall of fire roared in front of him, and inside its deadly embrace was Veronica. She was on her knees, trapped by the very monsters she had led away. The devastating sight stunned him, making him question his own faith. Was loving someone more than God truly a sin this grave? His shock quickly hardened into pure resolve. Leon dismounted, his expression grim, and walked directly toward the inferno, ready to save her no matter the cost. Leon walks toward the inferno, his expression grimly resolved. He summons the legendary Holy Sword, its divine blue light cutting through the smoky air. Knowing there is only one way, he offers himself to the sacred power, pleading for it to consume him entirely. In an act of ultimate sacrifice, Leon directs the glowing blade toward his own heart, and a blinding flash of energy erupts from the impact. Meanwhile, trapped within the circle of fire, Veronica is succumbing to the heat. Surrounded by monsters, she collapses, feeling helpless as her life slips away. But as she loses consciousness, a profound change begins. A new awareness awakens, expanding her vision far beyond the flames. She sees the entire universe laid bare. The distant stars, the vast deserts, and the endless oceans of the world. With these new eyes, she comes to a stunning realization. Every single living being is different and precious. The brilliant light from Leon's sacrifice finally fades, leaving a strange silence in its wake. As Veronica collapses, her consciousness drifts away from the fire and into the cosmos. A new awareness floods her mind, revealing a stunning truth. Every single human possesses a unique spirit, each one special in its own way. But this understanding brings a painful question. Why him? Of all the precious lives in the world, why did it have to be his? She is pulled back to reality by a weak voice. Leon is now beside her, holding her close within the inferno. He pleads for her to open her eyes, his face etched with regret that it had to end this way. As tears fall from her eyes, he gently reaches up, telling her not to cry and not to be sad. Leaning into his embrace, she wonders if the universe itself had been jealous of them. Her vision fills with stars as her consciousness finally gives out. Veronica's eyes flutter open. Lying in an ornate bed, she sees Volland, a man in uniform, standing beside her, asking if she's conscious. Sitting up, she tries to make sense of her scattered thoughts, concluding that the recent horror must have been a dream. The memory of Leon's face flashes in her mind, but she pushes it away, convinced he would never have saved her. Volland reports on the situation. The operation, though dangerous, seems to have worked. The damage was significant, but the creatures no longer threaten the walls. Hearing that the casualties were within expectations brings Veronica a small sense of relief. Volland then asks if something is troubling her. She hesitates before explaining that, just before passing out, she saw a vision. She describes seeing into something ancient, feeling its envy when it first encountered their world. As Volland processes this, she reconsiders. The feeling was sadder than envy, she says. It felt like pity. From the shadows, a deep voice cuts in, questioning her choice of words. The man questioning her from the shadows is Oscar Burke, Leon's own brother. He presses her, asking why a cosmic being would ever feel pity for monsters. Veronica grows flustered, quickly taking back her statement. She blames her choice of words on her dizziness, insisting she's still not thinking clearly after waking up. Seeing her distress, Volland tells her to rest, explaining that a full recovery is what matters most. But as he turns to leave, Veronica quietly asks about Leon. Volland freezes, his expression troubled. His mind flashes back to a conversation he witnessed. Philip had questioned Leon about saving Veronica, suggesting a little kindness might make him more likable to her. Before Volland can form a response, a sharp knock comes from the door. A servant enters with a direct order from Princess Joanna. Her Highness demands to see the contractor immediately, leaving no doubt that the summons is for Veronica. Brought before Princess Joanna, Veronica is presented with an elegant crimson gown. The maids dress her, and she stares at her reflection, feeling she can't possibly accept such an extravagant gift. But the princess insists, explaining that the king has personally invited Veronica to the founding festival. She certainly can't attend in her old, worn-out armor. As she sips her tea, Joanna's tone becomes cold. She calls the dress a small compensation for Veronica's future sacrifice. Confused, Veronica questions her, but the princess only offers a chilling explanation. When a primary monster is slain, everything connected to it also perishes. Joanna then poses a terrifying question. If the main monster dies, what does Veronica think will happen to the one who assimilated its power? With a sly look, she wonders how Veronica could have kissed him so often without ever hearing the story. The devastating implication hits Veronica hard, and her heart pounds as the grim truth of her own fate becomes terrifyingly clear. Veronica's mind spirals. The princess's words echo, confirming her grim fate is tied to the monster. Her thoughts immediately turn to Leon. She wonders if he ever even asked for her name, or if there was any reason for him to care about her at all. A guard announces that Sir Leon Burke has arrived. Leon steps into the room, his eyes instantly locking onto Veronica in her striking crimson gown. Princess Joanna sees exactly where he's looking. With a thin smile, she remarks how disappointing it is that his attention went straight to Veronica. Leon quickly recovers, explaining the bright colors just caught his eye for a moment. He smoothly adds that no one could ever rival the princess's own beauty. But the moment hangs in the air. Trapped between the manipulative royal and the man intertwined with her destiny, Veronica feels overwhelmed. She covers her mouth, realizing she needs time to process everything. As Princess Joanna smirks, she privately dismisses Veronica as a disposable toy. But she underestimates her. Veronica steals her resolve, refusing to be a mere plaything for the royals any longer. Her change in demeanor doesn't go unnoticed. Leon sees her pale face and asks if the dress is uncomfortable. Seizing the opportunity to escape, Veronica quickly apologizes. She explains that she hasn't fully recovered her strength and gets tired easily. Joanna feigns disappointment, remarking what a shame it is that they can't spend more time together. She tells Veronica to go conserve her strength for the festival. As Veronica walks away, Leon's intense gaze follows her every step. With her rival out of the room, Joanna immediately works to regain control. She smoothly offers Leon a drink, casually mentioning that she heard he enjoys it. He quietly takes the glass, his thoughts clearly still on the woman who just left. With Veronica gone, Princess Joanna turns her full attention back to Leon. She watches with a self-satisfied smirk as he takes a sip from the glass she gave him. The effect is almost immediate. Leon puts the glass down, a flush creeping up his neck. He tries to speak, but Joanna interrupts with a brilliant performance. Feigning shock, she declares that some ill-mannered person must have put something in the wine. She insists they summon the knights to investigate this low act. Leon sees the trap for what it is. He stands abruptly to leave, but she warns him not to open the door. She tells him he will definitely regret it if he walks out now. But her threat is empty. Leon stops, his back to her, and quietly states that he's already living with regret, a feeling he's carried for some time, one he expects will last forever. Her games are nothing compared to the burdens he already carries. Leaving the princess behind, Leon clutches his collar. He grits his teeth, realizing the royal family's medicine is potent, but something about this is wrong. His vision blurs and he stumbles forward. Haunting whispers echo in his mind, calling him Deputy Commander. He's thrown into a waking nightmare. Shadowy figures of his fallen knights surround him, their voices filled with sorrow. They tell him they were only following his orders. The immense weight of his regret crashes down on him, and he collapses to the floor, completely overwhelmed by the ghosts of his past. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the chaos. It's Veronica, standing in the doorway with a serious expression. Leon looks up, his eyes dazed and unfocused. She says his name, her voice steady and clear, then tells him they should talk for a bit in her room. Without waiting for an answer, she turns and leads the disoriented knight up the grand staircase, leaving Joanna's malicious plan in ruins. Veronica finds Leon on the verge of collapse. Seeing his desperate state, she calmly suggests they talk for a bit in her room. Leon struggles to his feet, sweat beading on his brow. The drug is clearly messing with his head, but he manages to agree, telling her to lead the way. Once they're behind the closed doors of her room, he turns to her. He says there's something he needs to ask her. Veronica replies that she thinks she already knows the answer, but she still wants to hear him confirm it. But Leon isn't really listening anymore. He leans heavily against the door, his vision blurring. He can only focus on her, thinking how her dark hair draws people in like the night sea. He notices the deep sadness in her eyes, but still finds her beautiful. The potent medicine and the weight of his past completely overwhelm him, and his mind flashes back to the day he first found her, broken amidst the ruins. Once they're behind closed doors, Leon leans against the frame, his breathing ragged. He tries to confront Veronica, asking if she has any clue what she looks like to others. He tells her she's clearly not normal, so why pretend otherwise? But before he can get an answer, the drug and his memories collide. His mind flashes back to the day he found her a lone survivor amidst the ruins. He remembers thinking she was beautiful even then, a fatal misjudgment he now deeply regrets. The ghosts of his fallen knights swirl in his vision, their sorrowful voices calling him Deputy Commander and dragging him under. Completely overwhelmed by the potent mixture, he lurches forward and pulls Veronica into a desperate embrace. Holding her tight from behind, his mind a total wreck, he murmurs that the time hasn't come yet, making a dark promise to himself that when it does, he'll be the one to end it. Leon holds Veronica from behind, his mind a total wreck from the poison. Confused, she asks what he plans to end. But as she tries to pull away, she feels the heat radiating from him. She tells him he's sick with a fever and that they should talk another time. He refuses to let go, holding her even tighter. He says he has to speak now, afraid he'll lose his mind if he doesn't. Leon confesses that he sees the ghosts of his comrades who fell at Tehran. In his drug state, the room feels full of angry spirits who want to harm her. He explains this is why he can't let her go. His grip softens as he looks at her, his voice pleading. He begs her to tell him he isn't insane because of her, that he hasn't forgotten his duty by dreaming of a life with her. Looking him straight in the eye, Veronica calmly reassures him. She tells him he's not insane and that there's nothing there. Her words seem to ground him. As Veronica pulls him into a hug, Leon lets out a soft sigh, remarking that they're both a mess. But Veronica isn't ready to let things go, calling him a womanizer and reminding him that he was with Princess Joanna just moments before. Instead of answering, Leon simply leans down and captures her lips in a kiss. The sudden intimacy is charged with a heavy sense of guilt. As he holds her, his fevered mind reveals a dark truth. He's grateful for the catastrophe that ruined her life. He admits to himself that if her home hadn't burned, he would have never met her. He gently lays her down, his intense gaze fixed on hers. He thinks that she should keep trying to save him, treating him as if he were her one and only God. The moment brings back a distant memory of her weekly asking him why he chose to save her. The memory of her question brings his answer to the surface. He recalls kneeling over her, telling her that he saved her simply because it wasn't her time to die yet. Back in the present, Veronica reflects on her own complicated feelings. She realizes she came to like him because she had nothing left. He was the last trace of her past, a single flame burning in her total darkness. She had hoped to become that same kind of anchor for him. But something has changed. An anxious feeling fills her, like trying to grasp sand slipping through her fingers. Her heart tightens. Looking directly at Leon, her expression turns cold. She tells him she doesn't like him anymore. As she speaks, the very floor beneath them seems to corrode and collapse. With the world shattering around them, she clarifies her feelings further, declaring that she hates him. The path to the hell they were supposed to walk together finally opens up below. As Veronica wanders through a bustling festival, her mind seems miles away. A man named Valen gently touches her face, asking what she's thinking about so seriously. Snapping back to the present, she notes how strange the city's peace feels. Valen explains that it's an illusion. The strong walls, controlled information, and grand festivals are all designed to keep ordinary people from knowing the truth. He then poses a sudden, serious question. What would she do if she were to die tomorrow? Caught off guard, Veronica admits she's never considered it. She figures she would first pray and repent for her sins. Then, she would want to spend her last moments with the people she loves. The thought seems to pain her, and a vision of a conflicted Leon flashes in her mind. Just as she's lost in thought again, Volland calls out her name, trying to bring her back to reality. Just as Volland calls her name, a deep rumbling cuts through the festival's cheerful atmosphere. The crowd stops, looking toward the mountains where the sound originates. Their confusion quickly shifts to terror when a man sprints into the square, screaming that the entire mountain is collapsing. A massive explosion of dust and debris on the horizon proves him right. Panic erupts instantly as people run for their lives. Amid the chaos, Veronica freezes, stunned by the scene. Leon grabs her arm, forcing her to get a grip. He warns that the city's protective barrier won't hold against this level of destruction for long. As the wave of devastation rushes toward them, he looks on with grim certainty, knowing this is the work of Bahamut. The city's illusion of peace has just been shattered. Veronica dismisses the idea of Bahamut, finding it ridiculous. She argues that the city's wall has protected them for 1,000 years and shouldn't collapse from a mere avalanche. Leon calmly tells her she is wrong. The truth dawns on Veronica. She realizes this wasn't a simple avalanche at all. She explains that since monsters can't touch the holy barrier directly, Bahamut must have triggered the landslide on purpose. Volland is shocked, finding it impossible that monsters could strategize like that. Just as Veronica realizes the monsters are starting to think like humans, a second collapse tears through the mountain. Leon yells out in alarm, warning that there's a village directly in the path of the destruction. The location feels horribly familiar to Veronica. A memory surfaces of a kind couple, Hannah and Emmett, who had offered her a place to stay. With dawning horror, she screams their names, understanding her friends are about to be wiped out. Amid the chaos and crumbling buildings, Oscar sprints recklessly toward the destruction. Veronica screams for him to wait, pleading for him to be careful before she stumbles, exhausted. Just as she's about to fall, Leon catches her, steadying her on her feet. He warns her that she won't last long running like this. He tells her she didn't have to follow him, then notes how she still avoids looking him in the eye. All around them, survivors desperately call out for their loved ones buried in the rubble. Leon says that he would look at her if she would just use his real name. His comment stops her. She finally turns to face him, her expression unreadable. She explains that out of everyone she has met, only 4 people have never asked her for her name. Her mind flashes to the 2 most powerful figures from her past, the Pope and Leon's own father, Lord Mecklenburg. They were men who held absolute authority over her, controlling her every move without ever needing to know who she was. Veronica continues her list of powerful figures who never bothered to learn her name, adding Philip to the collection. With a chilling smile, she tells him that, in her experience, none of them ever saw her as a human being. The comment clearly gets to him. Philip fires back that no matter what, she's still trash, but the insult has no heat. He immediately admits that her words make him feel like a truly terrible person. Suddenly, Oscar's shout breaks their tense standoff. He calls for Veronica. She sprints toward him, desperately asking if he found Hannah and Emmett. He hasn't. The main gate is completely destroyed. But then Oscar spots movement beneath the debris. It's Hannah, pinned and injured. She begs him for help, her eyes wide with terror. With a broken voice, she tells them it's too late for Emmett. Its weight hangs in the air as Veronica and Oscar look on, realizing their friend is buried beneath the ruins.